Greetings to all. In May of 2017, Jay the producer had a discussion with the nephew of the One West leader known as Ahrayah. That nephew will here be referred to as Ben Mack. Shortly after that discussion, Brother Jay and Faithful to God considered putting the recording of the discussion on the latter's channel, but they both had concerns about such being perceived as an endorsement of certain statements which struck them as perhaps unsubstantiated or of a questionable veracity, and as a result, the discussion was never aired. Now, nearly 6 years later, in March of this year, which is 2023, rumors that Ahrayah had passed away went viral on social media. But then Deacon Asaf of Israel United in Christ reported that he had spoken with one of Ahrayah's family members, who told him that Ahrayah is in fact still alive. And then a couple hours later, Vocab Malone spoke with that same family member live on air. And the relevant family member happened to be Ahrayah's nephew, Ben Mack. Personally, I found that discussion between Vocab and Ben Mack intriguing. Shortly after that, I talked privately with Faithful about that old recording of Ben Mack's discussion with Jay the producer, and Faithful continued to hold concerns and reservations about some of the statements in that discussion. What I proposed was that Ben Mack's contributions have historical value, and thus they should be part of the historical record. And after contemplating the issue for some time, Faithful ultimately agreed with me that there can be value in having Ben Mack's contributions as part of the public historical record. Now, with that in mind, please note this disclaimer. This video is for the public record. It does not constitute an endorsement by Faithful to God or Jay the producer of every claim made therein. Each listener is free to parse through the different talking points and decide for themselves which portions have value to attempts to piece together One West history. And with that, the rest of this video will be the extant audio of the discussion between Brother Jay and Ben Mack from back in May of 2017. I hope you'll forgive that it begins abruptly. It started recording after they had already started talking. But with that, enjoy the discussion, share your comments, and God bless.
The early 20th century to this 21st century here, it started off with a group called the Commandment Keepers. The Commandment Keepers were a group of individuals that followed and practiced Judaism. And sprang from that group came this modern day version of black Hebrew Israelite culture, where they speak a certain style of language called Lashwan Kodash. Most of this is rooted from a bunch of African American men that came from a group that was taught to be a part of Judaism. It was a man way back then. His name was Rabbi Abba Bivens, who was the teacher of the person who is now teaching this new way form of Israelite teaching.
Yeah.
That man, somebody that I'm related to, his name is Ahrayah. He had created the 12 tribes chart map that you see. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he created that. He's still alive today. He's about 75, turning 76, August 22nd of 2017. He's been around for quite some time. The history of how this came to be is they felt that their history was so, corrupt and ill, knowledgeable for them. They felt that this was something that Judaism, which they were following, which is the practice of, I believe they call it the white man's teaching, was something that kind of sprang them away from their teachings. They started to read books. They started to come up with different ways on how they could educate their people and create their own form of, in my own case, wisdom.
Okay.
So then they created a language. They created teachings. And then you started to see a lot of, I would label it as bullshit over most of their teachings as well.
So the root of it, the Judaism that they basically speak so much against today, is actually where they came from.
Yes.
And as far as because I always had a problem, even when I was with them, well, not with Ahrayah or anything. I was with the Nathaniel with IUIC.
Nate, he's a New York City police detective out of New York City. I met him personally. I think I have his phone number. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Get in contact with him. I remember him from One West. He's from One West too.
Yeah. So I was with him, and I know as far as him and his camp, they didn't push so much as far as you got to speak Hebrew. But I know there was a lot of camps that did.
Well, I'll tell you the reason behind that.
Okay.
The reason why he said that there's no reason for individuals to push the Hebrew is because when he was a part of the school, he himself didn't understand it. He questioned it himself. There's only backing that's backing teachings that they were taught back in the early 80s,
Yeah.
late 80s, early 90s, and late 90s, which he was around during the mid-ish 90s when he was around.
Okay. So, like, he wasn't one of the ones that really pushed it so much, but I saw a lot of camps that did. And the one thing I didn't understand, like, especially when they come into the sacred name, is that, you know, at least to my knowledge, I thought Hebrew was like, you know, one language, how, you know, English is one language. And if
From a biblical perspective, yeah. From a biblical perspective and a linguistic perspective, yeah, it is one language, but it's how they came up with the language that they have. It's more like a pronunciation. If you look at the Hebrew to Greek, I believe that he has an academy. It's called Hebrew Academy or something like that. That he has.
okay, yeah, mm-hmm.
He set up like some type of a scholastic set with a part of his organization, I believe. I don't know what it's called, but what he was a part of when he first joined was a scholastic set called the Hebrew Academy. And in the Hebrew Academy, they taught that this was the language of God. This means tongue, holy, holy tongue. This is how this became to be. This came from a group of individuals who only switched the pronunciations. Whereas when you speak to any Hasidic white Jew,
Yeah.
how they say?
Yeah.
You know how they say.
Yeah.
They don't understand what you're saying, but they understand the characters that you're using. Both of you guys use the same characters. We both use the same characters. I come and use Lashman Kodash. I'm pretty sure that white Hasidic Jewish man is also going to know the letters as well. The characters are the same.
Wow.
That's why he pushed it away, because of the questioning around it. He hasn't gone that deep with Hebrew. He hasn't read Hebrew the way that the guys that taught him used to read Hebrew. These guys came from these these old school Judaistic forms of practices. One of the languages that I know that they also read from is the Assyrian Assyrian Hebraic form, which is like a compound form of way of teaching. It was just really them, but to bring it back, most of them just use this language as a pronunciation. They just want to change that barrier between them and every other Jewish set that was inside the world. You still have some guys that are part of these old school Black Hebrew Israelite movements from the Commandment Keeper that continued on with this tradition. Like there was a man named Yahweh Ben Yahweh who passed away in prison for some things that he did out in Florida. A person that Whitney Houston also follows. His name was Ben Mack. He died, I believe, overseas. These are guys that came from that Hebrew, from out of Harlem. This is before One West. They came out of these groups.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, it's basically like tomato type deal where they make it sound like, you know, they're speaking a holier language than someone else, but they're just pronouncing it different.
They just want, I'm sorry to cut you off. They just
no
want to
problem.
blackenize everything.
No,
They
okay.
just want to blackenize everything. They said that Jesus Christ was a black man, which is true. Then they'll come up and say that back in the past they used to tell people that King James was a black man, which is also true, but up for question as well.
Yeah.
Why would we want to glorify the fact that he was black if he was a man that, how you say, created the slave trade or helped the expedition to import slaves inside of a town called Jamestown, which is the area that he owned?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
He just wants to stray away from it because of the questions. As well as the evil, he wants to stray away from that, the Hebraic form of Lashman Kodesh because of the questions that would arise from, okay, this is just a made-up pronunciation.
No, okay.
Also, if you ever bump into a real Hebraic scholar like myself, and I ask him questions about certain languages or certain words that are inside of the language of Hebrew, and ask him a question about it, it kind of would distract his teachings as well, or disrupt the teachings that he was taught. He's only going to teach people what they know, which is edification. He's not going to teach them what he knows.
Okay. So it's kind of, yeah.
Everyone was like that during that time.
Okay. So it's starting to kind of like piece together a little bit because now, okay, so as far as Judaism, I know within, I guess, modern Judaism today, you have the different sects. You have the Messianic branches, then you have the Orthodox, and then you have some other Nazarene or whatever, little branches or whatever. So you have, I'll use two main categories. So you have the ones that don't believe that the Messiah has come. You have those that believe the Messiah has come. So I would have to take to guess, especially being that the Christ that the Israelites push today is not the Christ of the Bible. So I would have to imagine that as far as at the beginning, when they were rooted in Judaism, it had to be some kind of branch that didn't have to do with Christ. It was more probably like the traditional law of Moses type Judaism.
Yeah, well, way they teach you back then, they used to break down the classification Empire back in Africa. Then
Okay.
you have the Ashkenazi Jews, I believe, that they use. As far as relating it today to the modern day guys who follow after a certain way, because you still have those denominations of Judaism practitioners. I would like to call them. I would like to call them practitioners.
Yeah.
You still have those guys. At one point, one of these groups did break off, but the group that had broke off were guys that were known as the adapts. The guys that had converted over to this were how what they pushed in the past was the guys that were called that broke off weren't the guys who they called, I believe they say, natural born Jew.
Yeah.
They use that like natural born Jew, brother. Yeah, that was the groups that broke off. But I think that they made back in the past they used to make an emphasis on it. They may not, talk about it today. But there's a lot of YouTube videos out there where you can catch a lot of guys in New York arguing about who has the knowledge. Truthfully speaking, he is a part of that group. Bishop Nate, I believe he has churches all over the place, all child state organizations.
Yeah.
He likes to straight like in the past. I know they still keep that tradition. I call it tradition because it is that tradition of saying that they're not a part of a religion, but they see more as if they are inside of a religion than any of the religions in the world.
Yeah. So, as far as getting down to because I know because I used to follow before I came to the Hebrew Israelite movement, I was following the Messianic Jewish folks, and at least the part that I was a part of, even though they were like we're the Jews and stuff like that, they had a mixed congregation because they didn't never teach that just because you wasn't Jewish by birth or at least by circumcision that you couldn't be saved, quotation mark. So what happened if they came from this type of, at least I would have to imagine that type of background? At what point did it become, okay, we're going to break off from them, we're the Jews, and no one else can be saved, and it's just us? And if you ain't on this chart that I came up with, you ain't saved.
Yeah. This happened right around the time that my uncle had created the chart. He created this chart so that there could be a separation amongst the individuals who didn't want to follow after him and follow after his belief. The story behind the 12 tribe chart map, whereas if you call him today, which he's a part of an organization, he's hard to contact, but I'm pretty sure if you continue to break through to him and say, I want to interview with you, he would, and my nephew was the one that recommended it to you, he would give it to you. But yeah, he has a bunch of tapes and DVDs out there where inside the DVDs he talks about how this 12 tribe chart map came into being, the concept of it. It was really constructed from this story and this story alone. And you tell me if you believe this. That Ahrayah one day fell asleep, woke up, and had a dream, woke up and composed the 12 tribe chart map along with the 17 nations, and that it became all clear to him through a dream. Now, do you believe that?
I don't.
My point is that.
Yeah, I don't believe it, man.
That's the story behind it. If you actually see these individuals back here who created it, what was the story behind them, that person who created it? Many of them will be puzzled. Whereas if you ask the man himself who created it, who's still alive, which I tell people to try to get it on tape while he's still alive,
Yeah.
and tell me if you believe what he was saying. This is a man who lied about a lot of things. There was a time, this is during the build-up, in the late 90s when they started to break up, they started to come up with all outrageous bullcrap. You can catch this on tape. There's some videos out there on YouTube where you can see it. That they started to preach about the 2K conspiracy.
Oh,
guys
yeah.
in New York were the main endorsers of the 2K conspiracy. And in 2000, Jesus Christ is going to come and slay all white men.
Yeah.
That individual directly in their face. This is a quote that I'm getting from him. From Ahrayah. Now, I have no animosity from him. I can speak to my own family, brother. I'm a part of this family. Our family split in two. We have my grandfather who's different from his father, but my grandmother is his mother. She passed away. So his brother, I have him in the room over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man.
There's a lot of stories behind it. They just want to keep people tucked in because they know that they can make some money off of these organizations. Right now, my uncle's inside of an organization that's making the most money as a Black Hebrew Israelite movement.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
Called, it's a bunch of people a part of it. You got Boys and Men that's a part of that group, a couple of movie stars that are part of this group, a couple of athletes that are also a part of this group. Zab Judah, the boxer, is also a part of this group. So a lot of people on it. When they do a Passover event, it seems more like a show than it is anything else. You can look it up on the field. He endorsed a man back in the past who called himself Marshal, which I believe the teachers of that organization, that former organization that you was in, which I believe is called the Israel United in Christ. You still have it?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I thought I heard something.
Yeah.
Which is called Israel United in Christ. That's the group, right?
Yeah, that's the group I was with. Yeah.
The primary color is purple. Yeah.
Yeah.
A group that he was a part of, where he stood up and said that, and confessed and said that, King David is Marshal and all this other stuff, which was a lie.
Yeah.
Now he's endorsing somebody else as into being the comforter, which I'm pretty sure Nate said that he's familiar with the comforter because it's a young man that used to be a part of his group, a part of one of his camps, or a part of before part of another camp, and he rose into power over that organization because he was a part of a video media department and made it through to other people. And during that time, it was more like a power struggle than it was a money struggle.
Okay.
People say, because of certain ranks, and I hate the hierarchy that they had, but it's because of, truthfully speaking, power. They just wanted to have power over people. They knew that if they had power over people, then they would get that financial funding off of people. The historical nature of that organization first started off with teaching people. Then it became about power.
Yeah.
Money. Now, today, I believe the group that Marvel's part of, now I want you to hear this, that he's a part of, the FBI, the IRS, and Homeland Security raided and seized all of the property that they had. And they made a march on Washington, D.C. A lot of media kept it under the bus. But what they found was evidence of years dating back to One West, which I've seen some of those papers, of corruption, of power, and they were teaching some of the guys that are inside of these positions. When Nate left the organization, he was called a general. That was his rank. Today, I believe he's called a bishop or an elder now.
Yeah.
He calls himself elder now because he reached a certain age. And I kind of made that claim to him when he walked off. And I showed him a verse, whereas if you are over the age of 50, identifiably, you are considered an elder amongst what's known as the nation of Israel outside of One Police Plaza, downtown Manhattan. So, the historical history of the
Man. So
Hebrews is that is based off of corruption and lies.
yeah. So from the get go, from the break off from Judaism, it was corrupt from the beginning. It wasn't pure. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, we found the real truth type thing. Let's tell our people. It was like we want this for ourselves. We want to break off. It was a selfish motive, and we're gonna make up this stuff to separate ourselves from these, I guess, white people. And that seemed to be why, even though in their teachings they would teach that all the nations had Israel in slavery, but their main enemy is always the white man. It's the focus is always on the white man.
I had to cut you off from that way. It wasn't
Yeah.
always that way.
Okay.
As far as break off, you had individuals a part of the group of the commanding keepers where some of the teachers like not Yahweh Ben Yahweh, that was told him. His name was Rabbi Bidden. They called him Abba Bidden.
Okay. Yeah.
In some cases, they would just call him Abba, right? You're familiar with who he is, right?
Yeah.
Later, they started to teach that as his father was also a part of that group, which is not my grandfather. My grandfather is another man. We just said his mother, which is my grandmother. And during the last days of that, they used to teach that same thing. The only reason why they broke off from it and started to become selfish was that they started to look at historical documents. They started to look at historical discoveries. They started to see that a lot of, Judaistic propaganda that was being used and during that era seemed to be more about hiding information that should have been classified, which later on became declassified by a lot of white scholars who started to say to themselves, okay, this history is not our history, and we now have evidence that this is not our history. So it didn't really start off as selfishness. It started off with, I would say, from an emotional attribute of anger.
Yeah.
I would say confusion. Most individuals were confounded during that time. So then they started to, in the later years of the Command Keepers, say to themselves, we are the true Israelites of Israel, of this Israel regime, is black, melanin-skinned people are. Then Ahrayah came along and then started to come up with, after he was educated with the history of the Caribbean and how, Christopher Columbus came over here and started to change things de Ovando started to implement legacies, and Bartholomew de las Casas was confused with the natives of the land, and then you had other historical Englishmen, Spanishmen, Dutchmen come to the conclusion that most individuals on this side of the world would have to have been the lost tribes of Israel based off of the historical linguistics produced by them.
Mm.
When they came up to this world, they supposedly didn't find a language, but the historical languages that they did find that was here amongst the Caribs, the Arawaks, and the Tainos was that these languages came from that of Hierabric, how you would say, history. So now you have historians coming around and talking about discoveries that have already been discovered by historians before them.
Yeah.
That the people on this side of the world is truly the Israelites. He didn't brought that up, but he didn't bring that up based off of his dream. He brought that up based off of what he found from other historical researchers. And also back then, he used to use that as a form of reference. So I wouldn't say that it was because of selfishness. I would say it was dealt out to hang it. The selfishness didn't come along until the 80s and 90s. This is when this man was composed. If I gave you an estimate date, it was somewhere around 70s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
start to see it go into the media.
Okay. So my last main two questions is like the core of the movement in terms of basing what to base your doctrine off of. So you have Isaiah 28, and then you have the infamous Deuteronomy 28.
Deuteronomy chapter 28.
So
15 on down, brother.
Yeah, from 15 on down. You know, where did the if you can remember, where did the infamous Deuteronomy 28 breakdown came from, and then Isaiah 28 when they say you gotta go precept on precept, even though you know that's not what Isaiah was talking about, but that's what that breakdown was. And those are like the two brick walls that, you know, brothers run into every time that we're dealing with them brothers. Is that brick wall of Isaiah 28 and then the breakdown from Deuteronomy 28.
All right, so I would like to first begin with that I do support the breakdown of Isaiah chapter 28. I just don't support how it was broken down by certain groups.
Okay.
The historical makeup of how it was broken down. This wasn't like something that they first read into and said, this is the history right here. They got this out of other books. They looked at historical, you know, historians, and mainly French historians who wrote books. It was transferred into English. Started to look at those books and said, okay, let's agree with Deuteronomy chapter 28 that we would like to be the first people a part of, you know, a historical outlet from an upper level of academia to unequivocally confirm that this is talking about the ancient Israelites. They just use that because it seems as if, you know, you say it's more appealing to say slave ships, right?
Yeah.
More appealing to say bondmen and bondwomen, right? It seems more appealing to say those things.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just go to the Egyptian tombs alone, you'll start to see that, okay, it's obvious that looking at the hierarchy of this specific pharaoh, that at the bottom of the hierarchy were the slaves. And no one has recorded in history under, truthfully speaking, with this magnitude of slaves, a part of the Egyptian regime, other than Israelites. That's your evidence alone. When I look at Deuteronomy chapter 28, I just put it into question. What I put into question the most is Isaiah, the same verse that you referenced. In order to understand these verses, you have to also understand the Hebrew, which they now push away.
Yeah.
You have a lot of inconsistent renditions inside of the scriptures. So not saying that there's no errors in the Bible, but there are Latin words in here that don't belong in here. Latin words that existed after the confines of, the conception of the actual language itself. Meaning that there is room for somebody to, fabricate, place, and omit things from the scriptures itself.
Yeah.
And you have words in the Bible that people go over, and when they go over these words, they don't understand the actual nature of the words. They look inside of a Stronghold's concordance, or look inside of I believe, what was it, Weston? I forgot his name. It said something in Weston, I forget. It's a long time ago. Whereas they would look at it just for a reference to say that this is what it's talking about. But then when you go to this historian, the historian's going to say, well, I'm the person who put that inside the concordance. I made the mistake. They write books about these things.
Wow.
But then these guys, what they do is they look at these verses and they take it literally. They say, okay, we got to look at it from precept upon precept upon when that, how you say, sequence of precepts that they normally use, whereas they would hit one verse, they hit another verse. For example, John chapter 1, verse 1. We know that other Bibles have blatantly omitted things from out of John chapter 1, verse 1, whereas you have some Bibles that place things, made additives, whereas in the absence of an indefinite and or definite article, they would put an article, whereas there's a rule that you don't use that methodology of adding an article, whereas inside of Greek, if there's an absence for an indefinite and or definite article, it would be what's known as an error. But they don't care about that. They place that inside of the scriptures anyway. When you look at the Old Testament, most of it is laden with words that did not exist.
Wow.
And therefore, they had to replace those words in order to replace those words with words that were appropriate for that era. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys, when they go over verses inside of the Bible and they look at certain scriptures that they find inside of the Bible, most of those verses are in error.
Wow.
That thus, therefore, would conclude that the lesson that they came up with is also something that is in error.
Yeah.
I looked at a few of the videos that they had. I'm sorry to continue going on.
Oh, no
A
problem.
few of the videos that they had, whereas it was a bishop, or excuse me, a deacon. I believe it was a deacon. They burst off against a church, at the church, which they do normally. And the deacon had went into the historical natures of what the words meant and where the words came from the Greek perspective as well as from the Hebraic perspective. I believe that he went to go get an interlinear version of the Greek scriptures and showed the deacon that was there that you're wrong. And I looked at it and I said, you know what, I should be the judge of this. I looked at it, made a phone call, and told the guy, you know what, he's right. Even I looked at it. I sat down, I looked at the historical natures of the word and said, yeah, the guy's right. So that would mean that the verse that individual came up with is wrong. But they take it so literal.
Yeah.
They see it concretely, but they forget that literalism is a young phenomenon. Thus, therefore, if they come up with precepts upon precepts, and one precept so happens to be wrong, that means that the sequence of precepts that they have are incorrect.
Okay.
The type of guy that they don't want in their groups.
Yeah. They won't want you, man.
They don't want you.
That's too many questions. Man.
You only asked one question. You wanted the history. That's exactly what you get. Very knowledgeable about it. Most of these guys don't want to talk to me. When I spoke to Bishop Dan, he said, I know who you are. I know what you do. I asked him, you want me to go down to your group? He said, give me a phone call. That's how I got into contact with him. He wanted me to personally call him before I ever show up in Queens.
Wow.
Yeah, he wants nothing to do with me. Because, truthfully speaking, these guys only read things concretely. They read what's in front of them, but they don't read what's behind the word that they have.
Yeah.
Starting with Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, where they need to go back and start studying that. When you see the word God, we know that that is a word that carries plurality. If you read it from Hasidic words of the scriptures, or what I would say, the Germanic, they call it Yiddish, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yiddish, the Germanic historical ways, it says Elohim, and Yid carries the Elohim carries the identification of plurality, whereas I believe inside their language, in this last one, which is the language I accept that also uses stuff. I like the idea of having the pronunciation. Just don't say that it came directly from God. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where they use the word young. This is where Bishop Nate got his we used to call him General Nate. Where Nate got his history from. They used to call him young at the end. Yom is identification of plurality in Lashman Kodash, proving that these guys carry the same principles that they have. They just did not extradite the principles. They didn't extradite the references that they had from the white Hasidic Jews. Therefore, it's like they got most of their information from the white Jews and just claimed it as their own.
Yeah, I tell you. And then bash the ones they got the information from, basically. That's being the devil, so that would mean you got the devil's language that you're teaching us.
Yeah, they say, they wouldn't say devil, they say demons. You got the demons.
Oh man. Okay. That's basically you was connected the dots for me, cause I'm like, man, where this thing start off from, how did it get to the point that it is now? And of course, especially now with the advent of media and online stuff, and everybody can just post whatever they want. It's taken a whole new steam ahead per se, and you got these different artists.
This is what happens.
Yeah, man.
This is what happens when you get a Jedi master
Yeah.
comes along and tells you Jedi that he trained.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. You know, it's bad when individuals have to go to the source of information and find out the historical natures of where these guys got their history from.
Yeah.
Just 2 years ago, there was a guy who contacted me. I believe he's a YouTube star sensation or something like that, a part of, I think it's called the conscious community or something like that. His name was Brother Polite, calling me. I was like,
oh, man. Yeah, I heard of him.
Like,
Yeah.
he took all of my information and put it inside of a video stating that, oh, well, the historical natures of Islam came from this, that, and the other. I was like, this is all my information.
Wow.
I was like, okay, I'm proud of it. I wasn't going to, do this anyway. He came to me at the City University of New York downtown at a community college and spoke to me and said, I need all the information that you can provide. I was like, okay, brother, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah,
He
man.
took everything, just put it on the internet. And he made the guys that he went up against look bad. This is also an arena that I'm pretty sure Nate would never want his guys to be in because they would get stumbled upon. They look at the books and can't connect the dots from the books. They did take the historian's perspective and approach and try to use that and add that along with the scriptures. But when you go up against a real historian, then it becomes a problem because the historian will look for certain anachronisms that you add inside of your literature, as well as certain anachronisms within inside of the historical literature, and start to put piece by piece together and say, well, you're wrong, this is incorrect, that's wrong. And when you reference this from your scripture, that was wrong too. So he not only told you what was on his plate was wrong, he also looked at your plate and mutilated it.
Yeah. I know for sure, man. They before anybody go on any kind of debate or thing, you had to go up the chain of command and get approved. So so that should say a lot there, because I mean, when you read the Gospel, Paul tell us to be ready at all times. Somebody asked us about the faith and this hope.
So that you may withstand the wiles of the devil.
Yeah, so
you gotta allow for that person to first put on his armor, allow for him to actually withstand the wiles of the devil.
Yeah.
It's up to you in order to do so. It's not up to anybody else to do so.
Yeah.
Some of us forget that inside the midst of all of us, and I would like to reference a famous painting by Francisco Goya. Inside the midst of the Sabbath, it's called the Black Sabbath. You had the devil in the midst of the church. The church during that time being the true church of God.
Yeah.
This is during the Napoleonic era. That means that anytime the saints are around, the children of God, right?
Yeah.
You always have the devil around. But these are things that they don't teach inside the church. They just point to everybody else as the devil, and not point to the midst of what's in front of them as being the devil.
Yeah. Because I'm like, they focus so much on, if you ask them who's the devil, they'll tell you white man. But clearly, when you read the scriptures, Christ called plenty of Israelites the devil.
You know what I mean? He's a different entity from them. He may be a part of the set of demons, but he himself is not Satan.
Yeah. So I mean,
they should be asking is where's Satan at? They can't tell you that. Another thing that I have is I like to also that I had a debate with somebody was the idea or the ideology and philosophy behind spirit, right? And he lost miserably. I even looked up everything that he told me. He said that, when you die, you turn into the spirit. I said, so spirit is different from that soul, right? He said, no, spirit and soul is also the same thing. So this verse is not talking about that. So he didn't harden Pharaoh's heart. He didn't put the spirit on that. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. He told you to worship Jesus Christ or Christ in the spirit and in truth. Anybody who worships God must worship him in what? Spirit and truth, right?
Yep.
So if you're supposed to worship in the spirit and truth, and you're not in the spirit, how can you be worshiping God? According to you, a spirit is, back in the day, back in the 50s, the 70s, they had a show called Tom and Jerry, right?
Yeah.
Tom and Jerry, right? You like the little mouse killed Tom, and Tom turned into what's known as a visual spirit. According to them, that's their definition of a spirit.
What?
So it's not an emotional attribute. So it's not an emotional attribute. That's what you're not telling. That's what you tell them.
Oh my goodness.
These people, some of the older guys to the party group, and I met Nate. He also believed this at one point. He may not believe it no more because someone, told something.
I know that they teach that the law given to Moses is the Holy Ghost. They don't believe that it's an actual being, like how you got the Father, you got the Son, and you got the Holy Spirit. They believe the law given to Moses is the Holy Spirit, which that would cause all kind of problems.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going to cause a bunch of problems. Because if the Lord is a spirit, and according to the scriptures, if we look at the actual attributes of a spirit, most of the attributes of the spirit, inside from a biblical perspective, appears as an emotional attribute or as an attribute within itself, as an entity.
Yeah.
Say, I believe the Catholic Church believes more in that. They say the spirit, the Father descending, the Holy Ghost, right?
Yeah.
They say that. When we look at the scenes where the Spirit or Holy Spirit appeared in, if we look for even the latest of scene inside the scriptures, we can find it inside of the Greek. There was a time where all the apostles stood and they all spoke in languages and tongues, which is a whole other lesson.
Yeah.
And I believe Nick got that right. He got that from Ahrayah, where he said, well, they didn't speak Hebrewish when he was saying Hamanai and should have brought a Honda. Right?
Yeah,
Which is true. We know that's facts.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that they use something called a Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point they called the Holy Spirit a comforter, the comforter, which is debate with Ahrayah and the guy that he's actually with now is a man called Comforter, which I also brought up. Whereas he said that there will be another comforter, meaning that if comforter means Holy Spirit, and that there will be another comforter, that means that you have multiple Holy Spirits according to the scripture.
Yeah.
Now, most individuals say that you have to do some study on all that. When you look at the scriptures, you start to see that there are most different attributes of a spirit. And to be a Holy Spirit, according to any black Hebrew Israelite said, holy means what? To be separated for what? God's personal use. It's something that's divine.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that's not for the world, but for God himself. And for the people of God. Just like he would say, I'm pretty sure for those 3 years, he told you what type of person you are. He said that for that holy people.
Yeah.
That's what he used, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tell you, I think you referenced that at I believe it was
Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
Yeah, 7 and 6.
Yeah.
No, that's 7 and 6. You're right. But he said for that holy people. I'm looking for another verse where I think it was the feast. No, it was the tabernacle or something like that. Where yeah, it'll come back. If I had my book right now, I'll pull it out with these. Most of these guys would sit there and tell you things straight to your face and tell you that this means this and this is what that's talking about until another verse kind of contradicts them.
Yeah.
Then they backfire and tell you that this cannot be contradicting this because if this contradicts this, that means that the Bible contradicts itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what verse comes up next. They would say, well, the Bible is no private interpretation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You already know.
But if there are inconsistent renditions of scriptures inside of there, then the private interpretation is amongst individuals who have not read the language yet. So therefore, you have to read the Hebrew.
Yeah.
This is a must. It's a fact. In order to understand the scriptures, you have to read the Hebrew. Because if someone has a question on something, use a different verse in order to give that person understanding about it. And in terms of that verse, also needs to be answered from a question which pits that verse up for debate. And we have to question the whole thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a person who reads the Bible, but I like to read every verse in the Bible and make sure that the verses that I read came from the prophets themselves. And those verses came from God himself.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, they don't follow that. And that's the reason why many of them keep people stuck into a hole. It's weird that you see most brothers are part of many groups wearing the same clothes because they can't find a good job because they have to pay something known as priest funds. And have to pay for certain offices.
Wow.
A part of certain organizations. And it starts to seem more as if you are a part of a money game in a fictitious military.
Yeah.
You are a part of a brotherhood. How is it that many people inside of the organization think that they have I wouldn't say animosity, but a sense of being that they don't see you as how you would say a brother. They see you more as a child or a student that needs learning.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Whatever they say, it goes. And that's the biggest problem. They implemented that back in the 90s. This is the reason why when new people come in that I believe they call recruits or privates, every organization is different. They name their ranks differently. You go up to captain, the past captain, goes to deacon or general or 13th year general. Then you have bishops. In some churches you have chief priests and apostles. People call themselves, they're just glorifying themselves with names.
Yeah.
They smite the chest when the boss walks in. The boss likes to feel that sense of respect.
Yeah.
Though you know nothing about the man that you're giving that respect to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they walk into the room, you gotta stand up, salute, or bow your head and stuff. I mean, that's a bunch of crazy stuff, man. I mean, everything that Christ pointed out, about the Pharisees and how they would act and how they wanted, the top seats at the feast, and different stuff like that, which a lot of these groups do. I mean, they, you walk into the school, it's set up like they get on the Christian church and stuff like that, but they got a big old table up front, and they're like up on the, basically on a platform.
On a podium.
Yeah, man. So I mean,
with a couple of horns and a couple of Bibles out there. They're supposed to be experts in the Bible. And they look at the other brothers like, hey, you give me a verse. Give me that scripture where it's talking about the cosmos and the sky. You know what I mean?
That's...
No, he's talking about the dreamers. Yeah, the dreamers, my brother. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Thank you,
man.
brother. Read, and I'll go on now, brother. Let me give you the breakdown. It's just systematic. Where that way that they had that came from Ahrayah. The way of teaching, whereas inside of a room they have a reader. It came from Ahrayah. They'll tell you, oh, well, they got that out of the Bible where they will reference something out of the
like
book of
Nehemiah or something.
Yeah. Nehemiah. No, not Nehemiah. It's one of the books, small books. I believe it was. It's right behind Lamentations in before Malachi. It's one of those books.
Okay.
I call it the small books.
Yeah.
A lot of history in those books too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Nehemiah. It's exactly Nehemiah. And if you look at them, that's where a lot of them base most of their information from. They base it off of not the book itself, but the people that they got it from. When they give breakdowns to lessons, these are lessons that came from their teachers before it came to them. It just came back to their mind, or they looked at their notes that they had over 20 years ago, as opposed to, asking him a question when they speak him.
And then
a lot of guys disrespect him, but they credit him. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like they'll something will jump back to their mind from old that they agree with still, and then they'll come and facade it like Bishop Nathaniel did when he came with that new moon doctrine and said God gave him a revelation.
Yeah. Oh wait, tell me what the new moon is.
So he said that he came with the, so they was going by, when I first went with them, they were going by the dark moon as the new moon, and then maybe a year and a half ago, he brought and said that the Lord gave him a revelation that the new moon is actually the full moon. So then he went with that, and then they had a breakdown for that based off of Sirach 7.
I have a few questions for you. I just want to switch up the interview real quick.
Yeah.
About the Sabbath day. When do they celebrate the Sabbath day? I just want to get a good idea of how this group celebrates the Sabbath day. I know that they keep it in concordance because back then they did it Friday night to Saturday night. Do they still do that?
Yeah, still Friday night, Saturday night. Still,
yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from that, when I talk about the new moons, I know that inside of the scriptures, it from the first 5 books of Moses onto the New Testament where it says, remember the new moon. I know some groups implemented the worship of God on the new moons and the phases of the moon as being a part of the Sabbath day. Do they do that as well?
Some groups, not IUIC. They don't go. They don't base it off of they don't base it like the Sabbath off the new moon. They say it's a different count that you go by.
I come from a statistical, analytical, and astrophysics outlet. I could prove that if you want to go as deep as, if you get into debate with them, I could prove to you that Friday night, Saturday night is not Sabbath day.
Yeah. When I came out, man, it just never added up, man. Because when you ask them a question like, how do you know? Because they beat the Christians down and be like, Sunday's not in the Bible. Well, we're like, technically Saturday's not in the Bible either. So how you get into this? And the only explanation that I would ever get was, is that when you look on Esau's calendar, or quotation mark Esau's calendar, they use this one reference from this one Jewish guy, this one Catholic priest or whatever, who came and said that the Catholic Church had changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. So they used that.
His name was, I could go before that. I believe the Pope's name was, it wasn't St. Jerome. It was actually a Pope that had switched it off.
Okay.
I forget what his name was. This was back inside the 1500s. But years before that, there was a group. And 325, you may be familiar with this group. It's called the Council of Nicaea. Familiar with that group?
Yeah, I heard of it.
Yeah, and 325 ACE, under the rulership of Constantine Caesar, also created a way of creating the map. Before that, they took dividends from that came from, I would say, the Julian. It was Julius Caesar, the Julian calendar. And they went along with that. From an astrophysicist perspective, if you ask a person how many days inside of the year, what is the answer that they would give? It would be 325. Or if they're mathematical, It'll be 365, excuse me.
Yeah.
They're mathematical, they would say 365.25 days inside of the year, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, ask yourself this, and you brought up a good statement. The statement was, you don't find Saturday in the Bible, nor do you find Sunday in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the statement. 165 and 165.25 is not divisible by 7. The closest number that is divisible by 7 from 165 and 165.25. I'm only saying 0.25 because none of us see a 0.25 day. I only say 0.25 because of the leap year.
Yeah.
4 quarters equal $1. That means that fourth year that comes up, you have what's known as a leap year. The only number that comes close to that is 364 days. If you line up Leviticus chapter 23, and I believe it's verse 8, where they say the 15th day, on the 14th day, the Lord's Passover, right? Which just passed, right? They say. And on the 15th day was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. On that night was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. By the way, Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread are two different entities.
Yeah.
Two different high holy days, which some groups don't teach. I'm pretty sure they teach this.
Yeah, they teach it. They combine it all as one.
If you look at the numbers and add up the days according to the moon, they say 14th day from the moon, which the first day went the month of what? Abib. That's the first month of the first year inside of spring, right?
Yeah.
Right? If you line those days up accordingly, 164 days, which is divisible by the number 7, you will find that the Sabbath day doesn't even land on Friday sundown to Saturday sundown.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? In fact, every high holy day inside of the Bible doesn't overlap with the Sabbath day. So I believe with the Passover itself, whereas it would overlap on one high holy day, on one Sabbath, or a weekly Sabbath, as opposed to every other day.
Yeah.
In the Feast of Tabernacle, you have the Feast the first day, and how many days later you serve that feast? For the 8th day.
Yeah.
They don't tell you the 7th day, purposely for that. Historically, if you look at Christ, right, they show you, I'm pretty sure they got into the New Testament a little bit deep. I know most old school groups, they go into more of the Old Testament than they do the New Testament. If you look into the New Testament, they'll show you that he worshiped the Lord on the Sabbath. Christ worshiped the Lord on Passover. Then there was the day when he worshiped the Lord on the Sabbath day, which they can't date because it was too far apart. Where they would talk about the childhood of Christ, and when 3 chapters later, now they're talking about him in his damn near 30s.
Yeah.
When it's time for him to be crucified, right?
Yeah.
In any form or fashion inside the book, you won't find that Friday sundown, and Saturday sundown, or some of the old school guys that, you mixed up the word, they say Friday, Saturday, sundown. You'll find that it will not fall on Friday, sundown, or Saturday, sundown. They just look at each one's calendar and say, well, Friday is the last day of the week. Saturday is the last day of the week. So therefore, the night before would be the beginning of the last day, because they say evening unto evening. None of them can prove that claim, which is also something that they follow from the past. If they can't prove it, you would have to go to their teachers. And if their teachers start scratching their head, that means that there's something up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of small things, a part of the groups that they're doing incorrectly, up to the parts where they start talking about stories of the elders. They be like, I remember back in the day when it was a staircase and this other stuff. Oh, back in the day, there was such a lot of money schemes, whereas there was a guy named Marshall. It was a coup out for him. They start fabricating information because they didn't know anything. It was part of a council called the General's Council. The General Council wasn't a council that the high priests were. These are the guys who kept all the information. This is where all the arguments were at. It all began with 7 individuals. It began with a man named Laham, Kazak, Ahrayah, Shaw, Marshall. You had Ahrayah's father, Yahanna, and you had one person that we don't speak of.
Yeah, oh man.
There was a group of individuals that were part of those organizations. And the reason why they didn't want to talk about these guys is because each and every person had their own style of teaching, and each person that was up there all had their own style of lies. Here's a lie that their teachers came up with. And everybody that was a part of the High Council was somebody perfect with inside the scriptures.
Wow.
Somebody was Peter, somebody was John, somebody was this, that, and the other. And here's the proof that you know that they're full of crap. That if you look at what they're doing now, they're still implementing that same bullshit. Now you have a man out there calling himself the three guys out there yelling at women, talking about raping their kids,
Yep.
saying that they're apostles, this, that, and the other, and that they may possibly be the three holy children. And it's explained inside of the book of the Apocrypha, which I'm pretty sure your teachers told you that, this is a book that's hidden things, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They used to have it in the Bible, but they don't have it in the Bible no more.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Just a lot of bullcrap. When you start piecing things together, you start to put it piece by piece, and you start to add it up. Most people don't realize it until they leave it because questions are not answered. When they leave, they start to see all the bullcrap unfold.
Yeah, and
really did some money.
And when you come out, and when I experienced this, a couple other brothers that came out as well. When you come out, because that's the dangerous part about this movement is that as not only are they lying to people and fabricating these things concerning the scriptures, they're basically what the scriptures are calling false prophets and false teachers, and they got people in there that's believing every word that they said, just like I did. And the worst part about that is that they telling people that if they don't, like for example, as far as keeping the law of Moses and the teachings that they tell them about it, they tell them if they don't keep all the law. Now, though they're not even teaching the people all the law. When you ask the people a certain law, they ain't never heard of it. So they obviously ain't even being taught the whole law. But they're told that they gotta be.
In there where you're not even supposed to walk in there with certain fabrics.
Yeah. So I mean, even down with they say that, for example, they teach that women with blonde hair. Now, I mean, if you look at a color wheel, blonde is just a lighter brown. But anybody with blonde hair is leprosy. They said the blonde hair is leprosy. So, but yeah.
Real funny about that. Are you close to the computer right now?
I'm on the computer right now.
Type in ICGJC Passover.
ICJC.
Okay. ICGJC Passover. Inside the video, you'll find Marco. He's wearing the red. He's an old man. Wearing the red. And there's a woman down in Blanc singing a national anthem that was created by Boys to Men. Who, by the way, did I mention that they're also a part of that group?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see it? Did it pop up?
Yeah, I saw it. I see the picture of her. Yeah.
Yeah. You click on it.
Is he the one? You say he's the one in red?
Yeah, he's the one in red.
Okay.
That's the creator of the 12 Shot Man.
Okay. Wow. And I see that sister up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if she got leprosy, I mean, so you got a couple problems with this. Number one, I've seen Bishop to think touch white people because that's another thing, white people's skin is leprosy. So with that being the case, if you touch them, you yourself got to be kicked out according to the law for 7 days out of the camp. You can't even. Yeah. So.
They say why should make you clean, but if you're not a part of the organization and you're not walking into a place that is of holy grounds, which they call the sanctuary, right?
Oh man.
Not the synagogue. That means that you're not supposed to walk in there. The laws only apply to those who, truthfully speaking, the laws of uncleanliness only apply to that of the individuals who do not want to be unclean, and they cannot walk into the sanctuary because they're church-based. They keep it off the base. That means that if your wife is unclean and she's in her menstrual cycle, it's that time of the month, right?
Mm-hmm.
She cannot walk inside the church.
Yep.
That same night when her menstrual cycle ends, the Lord says, what? Wash you, make you clean. In reference to Isaiah chapter 28, reference to Isaiah chapter 1, I believe, in verse 15, which they use as a precept going back to, I believe, the laws itself. It goes back to the laws itself, where they say she has an issue, a leaky issue.
Yeah.
She's not supposed to walk to the egg. Yeah. That's only applying to the sanctuary by sanctuary basis. Meaning, if you're not a part of the organization, you touch your wife, she's unclean. By the end of that night, you wash yourself, that makes you clean. He just wants to make sure that you don't go to that holy temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So-called the sanctuary.
Yeah.
And make everybody else inside there unclean, defiling that of the high holy day that you walk into. Did you see the video, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
He's like, you're giving me too much.
Nah, that's good.
Shut up.
So I mean stuff like that, man, and this is literally playing with people's salvation because obviously, with them not teaching the Bible, obviously they're not teaching the Christ of the Bible, let alone the people that's in there talking as if they believe on Christ or that they know of Christ. That's why Christ said you know them by the fruits, and the fruits that's exhibit is obviously not the fruits of the Spirit. So So the scriptures say, they say they know Christ and keep His commandments, and you'll know because by the fruits, don't know Him. So that would mean that whole congregation don't know Him, and the teachers themselves don't know them, and this is playing with people's salvation. That's why this thing is so super dangerous.
That's the reason why I say that. I say that a lot. There's a few people that call me and I say that they're playing with the lives and the individuals where their spirits, truthfully speaking, their spirit and their soul in this organization. That's why I say that it better be what it is. If somebody says that they are from somebody and they came from somebody, then you must be from somebody. It better be that you are from that area. And you have every right to say this because you have your families and you got your kids walking around inside of organizations. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, man.
You know that your child will be damned to hell because of a mistake that you had.
Yep.
And that they believed on it.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
Yeah, I think the Most High every day that all of them people that I spoke to, at least to my knowledge, that I spoke to about this doctrine, they didn't believe me. And when I came out, I said, I'm glad my mom and daddy didn't believe me. Like they fought me tooth and nail with that, man. And yeah, I'm glad they did. Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah. So, yeah, man. So,
it's crazy that I want to hit you with something.
Yeah.
How relieved do you feel that you're no longer in part of the organization?
Say again?
How relieved do you feel that you're not a part of that organization? Don't you feel as if the burden has been lifted, that you're no longer a part of it?
Yeah.
It's just the small things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that they demand of so much time. I know a lot of these organizations, they demand of a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
So much time. They're like, yeah, but I need you to do security. Do they do security?
Yep. They do security. They do the pat me downs, all that stuff at the door. Yep.
Yeah. There's guys in there that don't have a job but have yet invested different attributes in there.
Yeah.
Some people live your life. They put you on a planet for a reason. Live this life and worship God. Worship God.
I tell
All
you.
you have to do is worship God.
Exactly. So.
Blessed me. Blessed those who hear me yet have not seen me. Worship God.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, I can't thank you enough, man. Definitely valuable information, man. And, just to get that tidbit of information, man, to kind of piece this stuff together all the way up to the point of, even me coming in and the stuff that got my attention and seeing, getting history as far as how this stuff, came up, definitely helps. And I can't thank you enough, man. Definitely thank you for your time, man. I don't know how busy and stuff you were, man, but definitely thank you for taking the time out, man.
No problem. Listen, contact me at any time, and I'll make sure that I get in contact with you.
Awesome.
If you need a question to be answered, or you need somebody else to have a question to be answered, I'm right here. You can always call me. I'm always at the same number. This is like the 19th phone call I got this week.
Man, hey, I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely appreciate it, man. Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
You have a good one.
All right, you too now.
I'm picking up something right now.
No problem.
This is the second installment in what might be called the Ben Mack Chronicles, which document the interesting public discussions which one of Ahrayah's nephews has had with others. And as was mentioned in the previous installment, back in early March of this year, 2023, a rumor about Ahrayah's passing went viral on social media. But then, in the wee hours of the morning on March 4th, Deacon Asaf from Israel United in Christ announced during a live class that he had spoken with a member of Ahrayah's family who told him that Ahrayah was still alive. And in fact, Deacon Asaf even stopped the class to receive a phone call from that same family member. So let's take a look back at some clips from that class. And this will run for a little over 2 minutes and fair use.
This video is being circulated. And as of yesterday, I had one of his family members contact us and tell us he has not passed. I'm not going to go into any more of the details, but as far as the person that contacted us, they told us he has not passed. Okay? So why are we doing this? Why are we going into this? Why are we talking? Number one, someone started the rumor. Okay? I'm going to get more confirmation. I'm going to get more confirmation as time goes on, but according to the family member that reached out to us, he has not passed. And this is why I tell a lot of you, I don't deal with social media, and that's where the stuff was being spread on social media. Some of you, as soon as you wake up, you go straight to social media, you back and forth, and there's information, and anybody could say anything and it could go viral. But his family called us direct after this video and said that he is not passed. There's still some more details, so I don't want to speak anymore until things are worked out. But based on what the family member said, he's alive and well. Okay, so this is crazy, right? Is this not crazy? Because it was spreading like wildfire. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Give me a minute. Y'all ain't never see me. Well, maybe one other time y'all see me interrupt the class to take a phone call. That was the family of Ahrayah. You never know who's watching. You never know what's going on. It's what? What time is it now? It's 2:36. Okay, you never know who's watching. Okay, so I have the confirmation that I need. I'm just gonna not say too much until I speak with the bishop.
And then, shortly after speaking with Deacon Asaf, that same family member went over to Vocab Malone's channel, as Vocab was live at the same time. And Vocab wound up bringing the gentleman on, and it turned out that he was Ben Mack, Ahrayah's nephew. Vocab and Ben Mack wound up speaking for a little over an hour, and this video will re-air that interesting conversation. Now, as in the first installment, here too it may be worthwhile to put forth this disclaimer. This video is for the public record. It does not constitute an endorsement of every claim made therein. Each listener is free to parse through the different talking points and decide for themselves which portions have value to attempts to piece together One West history. And with that, let's jump right into the discussion between Vocab Malone and Ahrayah's nephew, Ben Mack, from back on March 4th. Enjoy the conversation, share your thoughts, and God bless.
Ben Mack says, Vocab, I see the channel. Son happened up while watching the show. My uncle Ahrayah is not dead. So Ben Mack is claiming that Ahrayah is his uncle. Now, here's the problem, though. Ben Mack, I don't know if I can believe you. I'm not sure. You know why? Maybe you just made one mistake, but this sentence says he is not dead. I just spoke to the IUIC group. Number one, Ben Mack, Ahrayah wasn't in IUIC. Number two, IUIC released official statement saying they had confirmation he was dead. So who did you talk to in IUIC, and why would you talk to IUIC when they've already confirmed it? Wouldn't you need to talk to someone in ICGJC? So I'm not trusting right now who you are or what you say you know.
Yeah.
He says, how do I call into this group and tell these people that Ari is still alive? It started in 1995, but it was brought up in 1984. He's saying they started. This don't make no sense, what you're saying here. The general was from Castle Hill in the Bronx, and I cannot confirm or deny, but Ahrayah has not passed away. Okay, Ben Mack, I'm going to give you the link, but I'm telling you, I'm real skeptical. Okay, so final words and thoughts, San Miguel.
I don't think he's going to come on. I tried to talk to this guy before, and he's
you know who this is?
Yeah. You never heard of this guy?
Nah, what's his deal?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, he comments on my videos. I think he put out a video once where he didn't show his face. You know, it's like, who are you? Why won't you show your face? Where you know, like he supposedly has information. This is what I'm getting from his comments that he left on some of my videos. Like, that's all this inside information, and we don't know anything. But it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, Ben Mack is coming on. So here's the test. Okay, Ben Mack, I'm bringing you on. You're with San Miguel, an ex-ICGJC member, and, of course, myself, Vocab Malone. I'm a Christian apologist. I study and research this issue. I don't claim to know the most, but I got the biggest mouth. And you're on, and you're saying you have different information, and you're claiming that he is your uncle. Talk to me.
Yeah, sure. Hey, San Miguel, he used to be a bishop inside of the church that I was in. Can you guys hear me?
San Miguel was never a bishop,
or some type of person inside of, and this is not ICIU. This is the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ.
You mean IUIC, not ICU?
Not IUIC, the Israelite Church of God in Jesus
I know,
Christ.
but you're the
San
one
Miguel used to
who's.
be some type of a bishop or something there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Ben, you just said he's not dead. I spoke to that IUIC group. Why would you speak to
Yeah, no,
IUIC?
he's not dead. I spoke to a deacon recently on the phone. We're going to be speaking to him in the morning. My uncle's name is Leonardo Sherrod.
Wait,
His brother's
Leonel,
name is Samuel
so
Sherrod.
hold
I'm
on, hold
the
on,
his
slow down.
son from
It is Leonel
Dahlia Kar.
Sherrard. That's true. Wait, can you go ahead and say what the rest of you're saying? What were you saying? Who else
No, what I'm
is?
saying is that there was some information that was put out on Saturday of last week
Mhm.
stating that he was dead. And I call him on Monday, and his wife Doris, and he's speaking in the background saying that is a lie. When I had that conversation with him, he said, I am alive and I'm not dead. I started calling around, looking at some videos, and there's so many videos online stating that he had passed away. He's not dead. I believe it stemmed originally from a group called GMS with some guy named Tahar.
No.
They were just putting out information.
What's a Shire Allah, or how you say his name was first? Now
I don't know what his name is. I care less.
So you do know his wife's name. It is Doris. That's
I'll
correct.
tell you. I'll tell you what. Even better, right? To confirm this, you guys had some rapper named Saint Ivan on your show. His
Yeah.
name is Lewis. He used to be the speaker for another false prophet, right? You call him, tell him to reach out to me, right? And I guarantee you, all of this would be squashed. I don't know why so many people are going out there and just spreading so many lies. These guys that's on this channel that you guys are watching from the ISUPK, right? They have the name of the old school. Those guys are lying. They don't know what they're talking about. They're lying. Nate is about to, clean this whole thing up. I just got off the phone with one of his deacons. He'll be calling me in the morning. He confirmed after I met him in person outside of 1PP that, hey, this guy is for real. We put out some information. There's so many videos, so many groups of so many people online just spreading lies that it doesn't make any sense. It's
Well,
weird to say
hold on.
that all this dirt is
Ben,
coming out about him.
let's talk for a second here. So people may not be lying; they may be mistaken. Like I'm saying, he's dead because I've seen it be recorded.
Yeah, telephone effect. If I
Hold
tell
on.
you some information and
Okay,
it gets
but
passed
I know,
along, by
but
the time it reaches the fifth
so I
person,
don't
it's a
think
lie.
well, no, it's not people lying. People may be repeating
And
misinformation.
making mistakes. Yeah, but it's based off of the intent of a lie.
A lie is purpose deception. So
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
purpose deception, and then you have some through ignorance. But at the end of the
okay.
day, I mean, it
No,
came from a lie, correct? So yeah, it was a
well,
lie.
I don't know.
That's what
I don't.
If
Now
you
you
sit down and you say something out of your mouth and you say, hey,
okay?
this
Let's not
person
get
has
carried away with
passed
that. But
away and it's
I'm
not
just
true,
saying.
what do you call that?
Let's just lie has intent to it, purpose deception. So, but there could be
Yes, the
mistakes or errors.
origins of what came out is a lie.
Well,
Okay, I'll mute
but we
myself.
don't know who came up with
do
it. So even GMS was told by someone else, and so was everyone who is
No, I'm
talked
pretty
about it.
sure GMS was the one that actually put out that
No,
information.
they
They
were
are
not
the sources
first.
for it.
I had already
No,
seen
was from
information.
a comment.
I had already seen information prior to GMS knowing about it. I actually heard about it before GMS
You
through
heard
a
about
heat
so what day was that? Because that's what
Saturday.
I got.
It was Saturday.
That was Saturday, right?
I got it right
It's weird
away
because as
from.
deep
Let me
as I
hold on.
look, that's the only group that I've
Hold
seen
on,
that had that
Ben. I want to
information.
talk to you. I brought you on, but can I interact with you? So I got the information from the head of a Hebrew Israelite camp. I'm not going to say who it is, but they gave me the information, and they're pretty trustworthy because they check out the facts. And then I saw it in multiple other places as well. So I'm just saying it's not like
Facts.
random people only, but I hear you. Now you do know his wife's name, so that's something in your favor. You said you knew some
I
of
mean,
his
that's
other
my
family
aunt.
member. You said you knew some of his other family members' names. Who did you
I'm
say?
one of his family members. He had a brother that passed away last year. His name was David Marshall Carl. His other brother's name is Sam Sherrod. He has a sister that also attends IUIC, the Israel United in Christ. I will not tell you her name. His name is Leonardo Sherrod. His mother's name, and this is Leo. This is Ahrayah. His mother's name is Elizabeth Brown. I know his whole family. I am his family.
Okay, so I don't know all the names you said, but I do know some of the names are accurate from what I understand. But you got to
So
understand this.
Elizabeth Brown was my grandmother. She was once married to a man named Willie Marshall Carl. Before that, she was with a man from the Commandment Keepers that was named Peter Sherrod.
Okay, so that is also his father's name. That's true as well. So that's accurate. Yaquab is who you're talking about. But if this is true, is there someone from ICGJC, the organizations he's with, or
That
someone in his
defunct
family?
organization, it doesn't really exist.
What do you
I
mean
mean, I'll tell
ICGJC
you
doesn't
what, you have
exist?
a
Yes,
guy
it
named
does.
San Miguel there. I don't know if he has a few numbers, but as deep as he could call, which I don't think that he wants to go down that, that route again, 'cause those guys are crazy with Tazadakia and them. Have
Right.
him reach out to somebody that knows Leo's best friend, which is Shaw. And I
I don't.
guarantee you that guy who has heart problems could tell you he's still alive.
Well, Shar's really hard to get a hold of. Like, I hear what
You
you're
can't
saying.
help people.
All the people you're saying, we have extreme difficulty knowing anything about because the ICGJC is so secluded now. So I would love to talk to Shar
I mean,
or
they're not a
Aria.
group anymore. Their
Yes.
doors they're there, but they're not a group.
Well, hold on.
There's somebody that you
They
can talk to.
are falling apart. No doubt about that, but they still
No,
exist.
they fell apart. They're not
No,
falling.
I
They
just
fell.
talked,
They fell.
Ben.
Since
I
when?
just talked to somebody who just left them and is still talking to people in the ICGJC. I know the ICGJC; they still exist. I know for a fact they exist.
Yeah, they exist.
But
I'm just saying that they're not in a real
listen,
group
Ben,
anymore. Let's be
when
real.
are they in a group anymore? Since when have they not been a group?
Come again, Miguel.
Since when? Since when have they disbanded? When?
Well, it wasn't an officially disband. And I heard during COVID they closed their doors and that they didn't open up because of the subsequent death of Jermaine Grant.
They
I
still
have
have
heard.
classes.
Hey, real quick. I have heard that Madison is
Yeah,
boarded
right.
up. Have you heard that?
Yeah, they're boarded up.
Well, I heard Madison is boarded, or I don't know about like boarded
I don't
up,
know. I care less about that group. I mean,
shut, like closed. Last I knew, Madison is, and that's the main school. That's where I went when I confronted
I
them.
went there as well too. The headquarters.
Okay, so if what you're saying is true, can you help us be able to discover? Is there anyone who's available, willing to talk to us about this? Because we would give someone a platform or speak with them. You're saying his
Well,
wife's still
I'm gonna
alive. You're
be
saying Char's still alive. Any of those
Well,
folks?
hopefully, what I'm doing now is I'm gonna try to get Leo to get into a three-way conversation with one of the individuals or groups that put out a video on him, and that was the IUIC because I guess they're the friendly of this whole entire mad movement, right? Yeah, they're approachable. We're gonna speak to the deacon that called me last night. I forgot his name.
Was it
Who's right
Abiel?
under Nate.
Was it Abiel?
Abiel. I don't know. I don't. I really don't know
Was
what
it
it is.
Ithon?
I
Was it
just don't.
Deacon Ithon?
I think it was Ithon. I think that was his name. He's an older guy. He said
Well,
he
no,
was
that's not.
talking to me on the phone. He apologized. He said we just want to clear this up. I for the life of me, I don't know. But I'll just call the number.
Why
Sometime
would
around
they
10.
talk to? I'm not trying to be. Why would they? Do they know you? Like, why were they talking to you about this?
So I left them a message. I think it was yesterday. I do so much. I work in technology, and I left a message on their church number because I wanted to reach out to them after my sister gave me a message stating that he had passed away, and I said, "Where did you get this information?" I called him Monday morning. He's still alive. They reached out to me because they confirmed that my number matched a number that Nate had when we met in person. And Nate said, I remember that number from all those years ago. Let us use this guy and call him and figure this out. So this is the reason why they reached out to me, that they found some form of prima facie, sufficient material evidence to show that I am related to this man. When they reached out to me, it was just all apologies. This is the reason why they reached out to me. I don't know what they're going to do now. They still have their videos up. I can't, justify why everyone else is also saying the things that they're saying.
Well,
When I called Ahrayah, I'll tell you what he stated. He stated that is all lies. They're spreading lies on my name. And he was saying this in the background while his wife was talking on speakerphone. When I heard his voice, I was like, okay, something has to give. He wanted me not to call anybody or any of you guys. People that I know personally are sending me voicemails. They were sending me emails. They were sending me video saying that he died, and it's just becoming like a media frenzy in this small little community.
well, yeah. I mean, that is true. I mean, you have lots of people who are in charge of these different groups saying that it's the case. So Now listen, that's, you know what you're saying. Part of it is the reason why I waited a week to do this video. My thought was, okay, it was reported on Saturday. Me and Miguel been talking about this all week, but I wanted to wait to see what reactions were, to see if there's some kind of confirmation. And when I saw different heads of these camps and people who used to be in the group all confirming it, I said, okay, it seems confirmed at this point. We don't have an obituary. We don't have anything like that. You know, we don't have a memorial flyer. We don't have that kind of stuff. We don't have family members. Well, unless you are a family member. But that's why I waited till now. I've waited literally a whole week because it's Saturday right now, and I found out about it Saturday. So we waited. We've tried to confirm this as best as we could. You do know some things that would be difficult for you to know unless you were like some kind of private investigator or, I don't know, strange guy. But you got to understand, we don't know what to make of what you're saying to us right now. You know what I mean?
I did try reaching out to other groups. No avail. You can only reach out to them on like radio shows. IUIC, I was surprised that they called me because their operation doesn't run until the Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. I literally got that phone call last night. Today is now Saturday. Didn't get a message. I left messages for them throughout the week, and it's just hard to get a hold of these guys. I'm surprised that you guys are able to get a hold of them when you can. Like you stated earlier, you said you have these guys, you know.
No.
They're hard.
So we were talking to a lot of former members when you talk about some of this. There's only some members in these groups that are mildly friendly with this. Because remember, he left, and I'm a Christian apologist, so a lot of them really don't like me. You know what I mean? But I have an interest in the history and truth and facts, so I don't want to. If the man's still alive, then I don't want to falsely report anything.
Yeah, but I want to correct that myself.
He is 82 years old, so it's not like when it's reported that someone
He's 83 years old as of August 22nd.
Oh, 83?
He's also Leo. His name is
Leonard. I feel like he's senile at this point, personally.
Oh, wow. You believe he's senile?
I think he is. You know, he used to do things in the past.
He what?
Hopefully it didn't build up. You know.
What didn't build up? I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he used to do things back in the day. Hopefully those things didn't build up to bite him on the ass.
Oh, you mean like drugs?
Yeah, no, not drugs. He used to drink now and then.
Oh, okay. You're saying, well, when you're that age, I mean, you don't have to have been an alcoholic to be senile when you're 83, 84. I mean, you got things like dementia. My grandpa,
there's a lot of things that.
My grandpa Giuseppe Polino, he lives still in the Buffalo area. When I call him, he doesn't know who I am or why I'm talking to him. I'm going to go try to visit him for his birthday coming up here in the spring. I don't even think he's going to know I'm there. You know what I'm saying?
That sounds like Alzheimer's disease.
But he's about the same age. He's about the same age as Ahrayah, my grandpa Giuseppe Polino. You know, he. So I'm just saying. But I mean, you're saying some interesting things. Okay, do you know the nephew who was interviewed one time, and he's like he was?
Yeah, that's my cousin Jedediah Sherrod.
So you know who I'm talking about? Wait, he's dead?
Yeah, he passed away actually, I believe it was 3 years ago he had passed away. He was about 26.
He was a younger guy.
He was a part of the Nubian group. Yeah, that's my cousin.
Yeah. So you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. He used to carry, like, he was a young guy, but he had like a little rat tail if you look closely behind his head, you know, his little braids. But he was a Nubian. He's passed away. He's deceased. He left 3 kids and a wife. Or at least I think 3 kids and a wife. Yeah, you know.
Well, what else do you feel? You know, nothing that's you don't feel. What else do you feel comfortable that's relevant to this history and information discussion that I could understand about Ahrayah or things related to family that relate to the theological discussion? Because we're trying to figure this all out. You know.
As it relates to, you said theological, like you want me to say something that maybe he teaches? Because it's obvious what he teaches.
No,
am I in agreement with it? No.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I'm not explaining it right. Just anything else you would feel comfortable sharing that might be of interest or that's relevant, to.
Nothing that you guys probably haven't uncovered. As years have gone by, you have individuals that have debunked his teachings, and they looked at a lot of the things that he had to say, and you guys just recently, before I even got onto the show, when someone sent me this link, they were like, yeah, they're talking shit again. And I was like, who's they? And I don't know who these guys are, right? And I see the video. I was like, oh, I see that guy. That's that vocab Malone guy. I seen him before. He was in front of, he's fucking with these guys. Excuse my language. Can I use profanity?
Oh, you saw when I showed up at Madison.
I seen a video where you showed up in Madison, but
Yeah.
I more so looked at it was half-assed because I was doing something that day. It was like I think it was a Saturday or a Friday or something like that, where you had two individuals,
Yeah.
the guy Lewis Rosario, who I think his name is Kazaka Mafanyan or some shit, right? And some other guy that was up there as well too, who served as a bishop when he was there. So you had a former apostle or some shit, right, and a bishop. And I recognized their faces. And when I seen that they had left that group, I said, good for them. Ahrayah has always been, how you say, a man who just put out a lot of information I didn't agree with. When I looked at the 12 tribes chart, which years ago he used to call a 12 tribes chart map because it was a map to your identity, that shit, right?
Oh, he would call it a map?
I looked at it. It was pretty. It was supposed to be a map to an identity. That's what it was. And that's what he was pushing. When you look at it, there was so many flaws, right? It looked like a 12-year-old wrote it. If you look at it, most of it deals with sociological identifications, right? They try to pair it with historical biblical social identifications. But three of them are half-assed. Look, if you look at them, there are three that's on that little chart that he has there that refer to geographical locations, which is against his teachings.
Yeah, they're not all ethnic designations. Some are geographical
Yeah,
locations.
it's not. Yeah, it's just no. It's zones. His ethnic designation is Guatemala to so and so, right? When you look at it, you're like, okay, so are we accepting the people that are inhabiting that land, or are we accepting the people who are, are just there?
Are you saying, you like went to family reunions or barbecues with Ahrayah?
Ahrayah wasn't a man that went to family reunions and barbecues. He was in his teachings. He was around his family members for some time. There are some stories out there that people have of him, of how he, studied for years. There was a time where he was in a wheelchair. I know the behind story for that. I know the story behind the individuals who robbed the church.
Robbed the church?
School.
Oh, you're talking about later on?
Yeah. This is years ago. This is pre-Jermaine Grant, before he robbed the organization. This was back in like the 90s.
Who robbed the church in the 90s?
People robbed the church in the 90s. School at that time. They called it a school, right? And when the 2000s came along, you had this guy named Jermaine Grant that was just milking money.
I know him, but I thought you were saying robbed prior to that.
Yeah, there was a man that robbed the organization. There was a man that they thought robbed the organization, and there was a man that actually did. And you'll be surprised at how things played out and the stories that people tell. Looking at this story that they have of Ahrayah in his life now, they show that he's dead, or state that he's dead when he's not. And it makes me look at the world the same way that I've been looking at it, that people are unreliable and they can't be trusted, especially when they're in a group that brainwashes them, right? There are some small little nickering stories that are out there that are just not accurate. How the church or school was robbed during that time, how certain individuals rose to power. You hear of stories like Jermaine Grant and how he rose to power through being a part of a video department. No, he was in the faces and up the ass of all the teachers. I truly believe, and I don't want to push anything, he had something on certain people, and that's what allowed for him to get what he got.
Well, that is certainly a rumor that we have heard. We heard there was things relating to supposedly Ahrayah being a gambler. I don't know if that's true.
I'm a gambler. His brother's a gambler. The one that passed away, my father, David Carl. He was a gambler with no money though, right? But Ahrayah has money. I wouldn't say he was a crazy gambler. It's not like he was a Theo on the block playing dominoes. Have you, in your time in that organization, ever seen Ahrayah outside of the church?
Well, no, I wasn't in the organization. I'm an outside researcher.
An outsider. Have you ever seen him outside? Have you ever bumped into him in a store?
Well, no, but I mean, I don't live in the tri-state area. You know what I'm saying? I don't live in the tri-state
Oh, okay.
area.
I thought you were. You said you were at Madison.
Yeah, I did go to Harlem, and I
For
did
a
do
different
that.
reason. It was for that reason, right? The reason of, hey, I'm gonna confront these guys. I thought you actually attended.
No, not me. I'm someone who ran into Hebrew Israelism and saw that it was so I'm a Christian. Saw that it was problematic, but most people didn't care about it, and so I went into sort of research and polemicist mode. But I care about the truth, and I still respect and love these men, even though I find a lot of the teaching and behavior that produces very abhorrent. But it's not a matter of hatred or anything like that or mockery. I care about the facts, the details, the information in the search for quest of understanding, but ultimately to show that this is something people should not want to be in. So the gambling thing's not a thing. Maybe it was more his pops. Maybe that was more where that was from. I'm just telling
I'll
you.
tell you one thing. There was a
Yeah.
lot of drinking of liquor going on during that time. Individuals were drinking. There were incidences where I'm not going to give no names, but where some teachers would show up to the podium drunk, and some people were getting sick of it. And as a result, people started to split because people started to get too self-glorified. Someone was always someone back there. They always referred to themselves as some patriarch of the Bible or some biblical
Yeah,
figure, right?
yeah. Ahrayah, it
Somebody's
said
Paul, or right?
it said that Ahrayah would give reincarnation designations to people, and they
Yeah,
apparent
he himself was
John the Revelator.
someone.
I guess he's supposed to be the Apostle John.
Right. They were always, and I'm a guy who's a skeptic. I grew up classically under him, right? And there's a lot of things from a biblical perspective that I'm skeptical about. So
Under
as a
him,
student, I would
but
ask questions.
he's your uncle though. What do you mean you grew up under him?
There's a lot of people that could call this man big brother or father. I am not as different from them, except for I may have seen some things said at a dinner table as opposed to being a parishioner to an organization, right? If I'm a parishioner, I'm just going to be told what he wants me to tell me. If I'm a person that's a part of the family, I'll know the inner workings of what's being done, what's being said. You'll see things play out. And while the parishioners are seeing it a certain way, you being behind the scenes see it different or contrite to that certain way. So I've seen some things. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it, him doing that, it kind of exposed. By him doing that, I mean he has done some things in the background, but it kind of exposed where some of these guys were at, like the whole 2K conspiracy, right? That 2K conspiracy was that Jesus Christ was going to come back in the year 2000 and kill all the black people, white people, right?
Right.
And everybody was going to go up into the sky. It would be like a rapture or some shit. The Lord was coming, right? And that didn't happen. But some people carried that teaching after the year 2000. He's seen how people, that was him that did that. He was that guy. He was their top scribe. So there was a lot of information that he was given. And with that information that was being put out, um, there are, he's seen it. He's seen the workings. He knew what was going on. Did he say anything about it? No. I'm pretty sure some people came up to him and asked him some questions from a scriptorial standpoint that would be very controversial and would cause some individuals to lose their faith. Like, for example, one thing that was always said in Israelite camps was that every book was inspired by God. There was a time where a guy like myself came along and asked the question, well, if every book is inspired by God, then there should be mention of God in that book. We asked the question about Esther and who was she married to, and if she was married to some ruler in Persia, who was that, and how come we can't find information about him? It was just questions that tripped up some of the individuals that were inside the school. They have old videos of VHSs of their conversations with individuals who were heavy critics of Paul the Apostle, right? And they try to use him to justify Paul the Apostle, use him to justify um, their movement in Black Hebraism, right? like there are occurrences and variances that they use Greek, the word Greek or Gentile, where in many occurrences, Greek means Gentile, or Gentile literally means Greek. And there was a level of acceptance of Greek within to the fold of the ancient Hebrew Israelites during the time of Jesus,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
He threw it under the bus. He did that because it would mess up his movement. To have a white guy that he's preaching against using the victim mentality, it would have messed his organization up. Here you have these black liberated young men in their 20s and 30s, and they found a group that they could be accepted in. If he was to teach that actually is wrong, they would leave.
Do you know anything about the year 2000 prophecy?
The year 2000 prophecy, it started getting a push back in 1995. It was around, not in 1989. They started talking about that in the early 80s. The early 80s is when they were speaking about this because they got that information from other people who were 2K conspirators, right? For some weird reason, I believe it's 1983. Don't take that literally, though. I don't want you to take that literally. But the earliest that I heard of the Israelites, the Black Hebrew Israelites, pushing information, the brothers from the school, was 1983. They started preaching that in the year 2000, Jesus Christ was going to come and slay the white man. And it didn't get a push until they were speaking about it for years, but it didn't get a major push until like 1984 into 85 when Ahrayah started to put a heavy emphasis on just that specific teaching alone. And I'm pretty sure you guys could probably find something in there. I guess if we could call it an archive, right? I call it shenanigans. If you could look deep into it, you'll find some of his students teaching it. You'll see people on the podium teaching it. You'll see maybe even Ahrayah himself teaching it. Again, nothing really got taught without him teaching it.
Yeah, but the problem
We
is,
also have Harvey Harris as well too, who was a teacher of that. Harvey
Who?
Harris being Moshe bin Karim, also known as Masha. His real name is
Okay.
Harvey Harris, and he's a
So
part of my family too.
just to the audience, he does also have Mashah's name correct. I'm not. I'm just saying to the audience, not to you, Ben.
His
But
real name is Harvey Harris. You can look up his
yes,
obituary.
no. I'm I already what you're saying is true. So he does also know. So the information he's giving that I can't confirm all of it, obviously, ladies and gentlemen. But there's information I can confirm, and I can confirm that Mashah's real name is Harvey Harris. So that's not
How did you find
common.
that out? I'm sorry
That's
about that. How did that? It
um
wasn't like they have masked names. Like, some people asked what Aryah's real name was, they would say Ari bin
Leonold
Yehuda,
Sherrard, huh?
or bin Israel.
Yeah, no, it's Leonold. And
Leonardo. That's how you pronounce it. Leonardo,
wait,
not
what?
Leonard. It's Leonardo. It's the way he pronounces it. It's not Leonard.
I never,
Leonardo.
but it doesn't have an R in it.
It doesn't, but that's how he pronounces it. And that's how most of his family members pronounce it. But they never used his name like that. If you asked any of his siblings, it's either Leo or Ari. We didn't even call him Aria. We just say Ari. Oh yeah, Ari's over there teaching up there in 120 on 125th. He's up there teaching where there's a place where Applebee's used to be that they used to teach at, which was it was One West.
One
They
West
called it.
125th Street. That's the
Yeah, it
second
was
floor.
a flight of long ass steps. I had some family members that used to fall down those steps.
Well, there's
But
also stories about people being thrown down those steps.
okay, well, I'm not going to get into that.
Okay, well,
I'm not going to get into that. But there was a lot of stuff going on in that building. Insurance policy fraud. You want to talk about that? I get some people in trouble. I get them in trouble.
well, there is a rumor related to Al Sharpton about what you're saying, right?
Al Sharpton made this rumor, or
No. Didn't they share an office temporarily with him?
that office that they shared was on Madison. It wasn't at that One West spot. In fact, the lower level. Who was that guy that died back in the early 2000s that died? His name was Abanu. Remember him?
No.
Abanu?
No.
There was a guy who was killed by police officers. When they were doing video footage, they were there at that same building back in 1999. They were there in that same building.
Are you talking about
The
One
building
West
that's there over there in
125th?
Madison. Yeah, the building
Yeah.
over there on 125th in Madison. That's the
19
building that Al Sharpton was in.
Yeah,
The one that was on
1941
One West.
Madison. Because there was a fire at Madison, I heard too. I thought so.
There was, but not like the one that was over there on One West. The one over there on One West is where money was made. There was also an insurance fraud. Excuse me. There was also allegedly some situations, right, that was going on over there on Madison where there were some things that happened and there was some money collected.
Well, that sounds like you're
Sorry,
maybe.
man.
No, it sounds like you might be talking about a rumor where there's a rumor that in the old school, not at 125th, but at another building right next to it that they also owned, they kicked out some drug dealers who were that was like their spot, and they ended up people associated with the school ended up instead selling the drugs out of that building, making money. They became the drug dealers of the neighborhood. There's a rumor about that. I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
I could get into that heavily, and I know some inner details on that. I know exactly the people that were doing it. Some of them had took up other jobs. Want to talk about some family members? There's a person in my family that was doing that. He was not too many people know him, but he was Mr. Dirty Work. He showed up to a few people's homes. Um, so there was a guy back in the 90s that supposedly had robbed the church. Some people believe that the person that did do it was the one that was driving around inside of a fancy car. His name was,
Yeah.
I don't want to put his name out there, but he drove a fancy car. And they thought that he was the guy who was stealing money from the organization when it wasn't. He
You're
had
talking
made
about
money
it
other
wasn't
ways.
it Shia?
I'm not going to talk about
Uh,
Yeshaya
Well, I mean, that's
or
the rumor. Are you
whoever
saying,
the
Miguel,
guys.
you hear this?
I hear
Yeah,
it.
so
Yeah.
people thought that he was the one that robbed the organization. It wasn't him. No. They found out who it was, and they sent someone over to his house, and they whooped his ass.
Miguel, I don't know if you know any of
Is
the.
Miguel there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah,
Um,
no, Miguel, that wasn't true. Yeshaya was not that guy. He left
he
because
wasn't.
of teachings. It had nothing to do with money.
Oh,
Why
Yeshaya
would he
wasn't some.
leave out of a money? Why would anyone logically leave from a money vehicle that's making them money to go into a situation whereas they're making a lot less?
Well, there's stories about these guys getting, removed basically, but I don't know. So wait, did
No,
you
no, he
say
left.
Harvey?
The story, Kenneth, before you continue, individuals that leave, and Miguel could attest to this, when people leave, immediately it becomes, we kicked him out. And that's never true. Many of these guys leave on their own volition. Am I
Mm,
correct, Miguel?
yes, sir.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Did you say earlier? It was real quick. Harvey was related to Aria.
So Harvey Harris, Masha, I guess we could say that. He wasn't a guy that was related to Masha, but he's a guy that is in the family. Masha's son was once with one of my aunts, one of Aria's sisters, named Bashan. And from his younger sister, he had 3 kids. So that's what draws him into this family. It's just, family members marrying other people's families. But he's
Oh,
considered to be family. I have 3 cousins right now who their grandfather's Harvey Harris. And Harvey Harris has a son. His son was once with my aunt. He is a part of the family. He's not my blood relative. Even Peter Sherrod is not my blood relative. I'm related through Aria by his mother, Elizabeth, or pronounced Elizabeth Brown. My grandfather's name is Willie Marshall Carr.
Willie Marshall Carl.
Carr, as in Carr. His younger
Okay.
sister has the last name Carr as well too. Is a common occurrence in our family. The Sherrods, the Browns, and the Carrs. All,
Okay.
master names, slave master names, if we could put it that way, right?
Do you know there's also, this is all speculation or rumor, that Peter Sherrod originally was from Florida before they moved up.
That I don't know. That's before my time. We're talking about a guy who, if he was alive today, he'd probably be like 100. I wouldn't know. But I would tell you that he did have some individuals that there. See, so there were 2 major schools up here inside of New York. I don't know if you know this. In New York, you had a group called the Commandment Keepers, and then you
Yeah.
had Peter Sherrod. Right? You had Peter Sherrod, right?
Well, he left
Peter
out of
Sherrod
there
came out of that group.
with Edward Meredith Bibbins.
Right, and this goes back as far as like 18. I would say the late 1800s, not the early. Some people say the early. You could even go
No.
down to North Carolina and find churches that date back and carried this, this form of Hebrew
Evidence.
Israelism.
The evidence I know for Black Israelism is the first time we can prove it is 1892.
1892.
That's yeah. I don't have if there's
It sounds
evidence.
about. It sounds about right. You'd be
The
surprised that the same guys that we speak of, like Ahrayah, these guys that are still around, they actually know this stuff. They know the people that build it by name. These guys, they claim they have history that goes as far back as the Atlantic slave trade. And
Nah,
I'm like,
see,
no, 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 no.
that's sectarian claims to try to rewrite
Yeah,
history.
I only got it to go as far back as 18. When I was a student under him, that's how far I got it back. I was stuck somewhere between 1920. I was like, I can't find anything else, you know.
No, there's definitely
What
stuff
else can I
before.
find?
Yeah, because you have evidence. Now there may be an oral stuff or whatever, but we don't. But the first evidence we know of is 1892, as far as publication and things like that, and when people said they received revelations and all that is 1892. Did yeah, it's like the way the rumor goes is that Crowdy established a congregation in Harlem, and that supposedly
That's exactly what it. Yep.
the people who started the Commandment Keepers came out of Crowdy's
Wow.
Harlem congregation. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Wow. How you? Wow. So you just researched this stuff, huh?
Yes.
Man, that's crazy. Oh man, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Wow.
So
Yes, that is completely true and accurate. Um, I do you know what time that was? I'm asking you. You know, you seem
no,
like you know a
so
lot more about this.
so I don't know what time it was. The dates on some of this stuff are very difficult to pin down.
I feel personally, I have some, maybe I could forward some stuff your way if you have an email or something like that.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I'm stuck around
vocab
1920.
Malone, vocab Malone at Gmail. See the name on the screen,
Yeah, Gmail.
VOCA.
Okay,
See if you
great.
see the name on the screen, VOCABMALONE, just do that, but at Gmail.
Yeah, Gmail. Okay. Okay, great. Got great. Wow. But yeah, yeah, I believe it's somewhere. You said that the date is difficult to find. I find through my research that as far as my eye could see, since you say it's 18, I have to look into that. I have to confirm that.
Well,
But back in the
I can
1920s is when I
I
found.
can say this: the official date that the Commandment Keepers became a separate, distinct entity is 1919. I can tell
Yes,
you that.
19,
Yeah.
20. Right. That's
So
as far as I could. Yeah.
they're known as
Okay. So there we go.
1919. And what's fascinating is there are breakdowns that Edward Meredith Bibbins, who one Westerners ignorantly call Abba Bivens, they don't even have his name right. It's Edward Meredith Bibbins, Bibbins. That's his legal name.
That's correct. Wow.
That Bibbins actually had some breakdowns relating to the Book of Revelation and some other places that were directly related to Prussians. Because it related to World War I prophecy, supposedly. And there's still some one Westerners in 2023 who will say, oh, yeah, that was the chancellor or the czar or some Prussian guy or the king of this. It's funny. And it's like, wow, that people don't even know that's going all the way back to Bibbins breakdown, you know? So we don't even know, like you talk about dates and stuff, we don't even know exactly when Bibbins left and started One West. And we don't know what happened in between when they left and they got the building at One West. There's a bunch of gaps in the historical record.
So between 1992 and it said 1919, excuse me, 1919, which is really too early for me. I could confirm back in the 70s they have been around. Ahrayah was running around in the street back in the 70s. He's been around that long. Some people thought it was the 80s. Some people thought he was around in the 90s. No, he's been around since the early 70s.
The official date the One Westers give for the founding of their school is 1969. But the problem is
around that time.
The One Westers themselves don't always have correct information. So we have to always double check.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's because they just lie. They just a lot of times don't know, and a lot of times they make mistakes. What are you saying? What are you saying, Miguel?
I just wanted to ask Ben if he knows anything about One West 123rd Street. That's another location I came across.
No, I don't know too much about that. I know that they have had many spots, and some people were just doing things out of their home early on. You had guys that worked in the Diamond District. You had guys that were selling oils back in the day. They had like oil stands.
The tables.
Yeah, you know that shit. You know, hey, you want some shea butter? You know, black. But you go to 125th, you're like, I don't want none of that shit. You know, right? But they were selling stuff. They were trying to make business for the church and for themselves. Some people were, you know, he tried, you know, the school tried to indoctrinate the people to bring more money in, and some of them had to live. So, you know, the money that they did make, they in their mind they were like fuck the 10%, or nowadays I'm hearing 20% or some shit, right? But I
think
they
that's an
they
ICGJC thing that the Comforter instituted. But in relationship to the tables, there's also a rumor with one of these guys when he was going to go collect some of the money from the tables that supposedly. Now, I'm not saying it was Ahrayah because it wasn't Ahrayah in this particular story. Said, I need to go get my money from my B, referring to some of the table money,
Yeah, they do that. There was a guy named Rawbon, who was a apostle in the modern, I call it the modern era now. Isn't that crazy? Where I was up inside of Jacob Cafe and he was rubbing his hands, talking about I need to hustle up some money. He said that out of his mouth, and I'm looking at him, I was like, "That's some devious shit to say." It's like, are you really here to teach these guys, or it's about the money?
Jacob's Cafe?
Yeah.
Excuse me. There was a place in 125th and Madison upstairs that
Is
was
this the
called
restaurant?
Jacob's.
Yes.
Yeah, some shitty Burger King. It was a dingy, dark ass room where they used it for
So
business.
wait a minute. You know about the restaurant? Hardly anyone
I
knows about
was there. I was there. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there.
So everyone, this guy knows stuff that I don't know how he could know unless he knows, because some of the stuff.
Oh, Miguel knows. Miguel knows. He ate
Well,
one
I'm
of them
saying
shitty
once
ass
you
burgers.
start talking
I'm pretty
about
sure you did.
Jacob's,
Did you?
once you start talking about Jacob's Cafe,
I used to eat ribs up there.
it is crazy, man.
But to answer your question, Miguel, they used a lot of spots. They didn't have like an official spot. They would always fall behind on certain things, financially, right? They use different departments, and some groups are still doing that, right? That's
they
what
go
I hear. I'm not
out.
keeping up with them. I have a job. I have to work. I work in technology. I can't keep up with the shit, right? But
Yeah.
no, Miguel, the spot on 23rd, that was not long lived. I am pretty. I did this the first that I'm actually hearing of it, because they always were doing things in different places before they established an actual building to be in. They always reference this one man in his book called Babylon from Timbuktu.
No,
The guy's name was
Rudolph
Dr.
Windsor.
Rudolph Windsor. He's not a real guy. His academic degree doesn't hold more weight than mine. So I have a
No.
degree, right? Not my associate.
He's in Philly, and he's not even messianic. They use his work, and he doesn't even believe Jesus.
He
is
got
Messiah.
his doctorate and master's degree from the University of Metaphysics. What the fuck is that?
Oh,
yeah. The Rudolph Windsor is not a scholar. He wrote
he's
a
not
book.
a scholar.
They treat the book like it's Second Josephus or something.
I bought that book.
I have it on the shelf.
A lot of people brought that book, but the point that I'm trying to make, I brought him up because I heard that he was surfacing one year where he appeared to IUIC. He made an appearance to them.
They did an interview together. You know about the interview.
And he talked about his story when he was when he heard some guys on the radio. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he say that was in the 70s that he heard these guys speaking? And it made me want to do research more. Ask people questions.
I wonder if he heard Cherry, because Cherry used to have a radio broadcast in Philadelphia.
Was this Philadelphia?
FS Cherry.
I think it may.
I don't know. I'm saying Windsor, I know, has roots or relatives in Philly. I know he's related to some Philly Hebrew Israelism. And FS Cherry was on the radio, right, and on Philly Airways for years. There's a couple old recordings floating around that are really low grade. I wonder if that's what he heard. FS Cherry, by the way, to everyone who's listening, sometimes he's said to be the first guy, and they'll put his foundation in 1886. But FS Cherry lied. He was only 11 years old in 1886, and we have census records from 1920, 30, and 40 to show his age. Or what? I'm sorry. I'm saying, yeah. We have later census records from later in life that we know his age. So he did not start in 1886. He did that just to make himself appear like he was ahead of Crowdy and Christian and the other peoples. But he did establish something in 1915 in Philadelphia. So he was a pioneer. He just wasn't first like he claimed. Anyway, sorry. Maybe that's what Windsor heard. I don't know.
I believe maybe that probably is what he heard. But he had heard. I believe that he heard Ahrayah and his guys. I believe that he heard Ahrayah. He heard his father, and Ahrayah was doing radio shows back then. He showed up on a lot of TV shows too.
Yeah,
Some of
I saw
these
those
shows
little
that
TV
make air.
things, but he was. I don't know if they ever had a radio show though.
Oh
Especially
no,
in
they
Philadelphia.
didn't have a radio show, but they appeared on a lot of radio shows. They didn't own it. They didn't have any form of business
They did
ownership,
public access,
proprietary
right?
shit.
Public is all
But
public
they were invited
access.
to a lot of radio shows. They were invited to a lot of them.
So, do you have, did you know, or is there someone in the family that has like old video or photo? I don't mean family stuff, but stuff relating to this. Because, if someone has this kind of stuff, this would be historically significant. I'd be willing to talk to the person and try to get a hold
Well,
of this.
we have family members that have video footage. We have family members that have, they could date back to photos. These were like weddings. He has a sister in North Carolina. I doubt that she'll jump aboard. I've
Yeah.
tried to get something out of her. There's a rumor on the Sherrod side of the family that Ahrayah. Here's something I laugh at. There's like, Ahrayah. He's you look at his skin tone. He's a brown man, right? It was said that his mother was a woman from off the Native American Reserve. So my sister goes and speaks to Sam. This is Ahrayah's daughter, right? No, not Ahrayah's daughter. Ahrayah's niece. This is Sam's daughter. And we're looking at some picture, and we see a full-blown white man in the family. So a lot of people think that Ahrayah is mixed in with Cherokee when he got some Irish in his. He got some fucking Irish in him, right? And what I find funny is that he's out there teaching the white man's the devil, and black people are going to rule. And I'm like, man, you're like you're Conor McGregor, fuck Floyd, give me money,
So wait, you talking about on his mom's side now?
Yeah. Seriously.
Because if you had any knowledge that he had Caucasian folks on his
Well, let's start and begin
side?
with his last name. It's Sherrod. Is that the most luckiest charm name you've ever heard?
Oh,
The fuck? Come on, are you serious?
Well,
His last name is Sherrod, man.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't necessarily speak to his ancestry.
right.
Okay. Okay. I'll see what I can find.
I'm saying
if we ever get this opportunity again.
His dad is not exactly a very dark man.
Yeah, but that's from his father's side. His mother is the one that they said was.
I know what you're saying. You said it was on the mother's side, but I'm saying, according to their own doctrine, if it's on your father's side, you can't be an Israelite if you have any non-Israelite heritage mixed in there, according to their chart. I'm not saying reality.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you could find something. Everyone has a little Irish in them.
Well, speculation. Sure well, I don't have no Irish. Yeah, but I got you.
I never know.
But I hope I don't.
Yeah, you never know. It might have some French, Dutch. You're a Hispanic speaker. Is that you? Or
I know I've got some Sicilian. But so look.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little. There's right there up the European alley. You never know.
So, but it would be significant if it was demonstrable that on his father's side, there was non-Israelite lineage. You see what I'm saying?
I'm pretty sure there is. I'm pretty sure there is.
I'm pretty sure too, but it's different than proving it. But well, that's fascinating. I'm gonna try to confirm what I can. But anything else you could do would help because I don't.
Yeah, sure. You'll see IUIC come out with some information. I will be speaking to them in the morning. I'm pretty sure they'll put down their video. Nate did something in his backyard. Nathaniel Ray, the detective from 1PP, he's gonna do
it. So you know his real name too?
That's how he got my name. I mean, my number actually. This is how they confirmed that I was who I was. That I met him in person, and I told him, hey, I'm Ahrayah's nephew. He thought that I was someone else. Here's another rumor that was going around. You said that my cousin, the one that I mentioned that died. Did you say you know him or you know of him?
No. I had seen the video with him. I never met him.
Yeah, the Nubian.
Yeah.
Some people thought that I was him and stated that I died. So there were some things going around in some of these groups, and I was like, someone's always someone, and someone's always dying.
You had to pull a Mark Twain on him. Rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. That's a famous quote. I love that quote.
Yeah, I know.
Rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. Well, if that's the case, Ahrayah is still alive. Hey, we don't want anyone to die because, I know you said you're a skeptic. I am a Christian, and I believe that repentance is a beautiful thing. And the longer you're alive by God's grace, repentance can be granted. So I don't want anyone to be dead. So I hope that I was wrong about what the reporting his death, and that you're right. You know what I mean? But at the same time,
I'm going to be the first person, and to say this unequivocally that he is indeed alive. Is he upset about it? No, I'm pretty sure he doesn't care. I have to call him back.
He doesn't
Yeah,
care.
so let's be real. Do you think this is a guy that cares? Pretty sure he isn't. But people are sending me links, and I was like, oh, maybe I could just jump onto this vocab guy. And I said, oh, you know what? I've seen this vocab guy before. Let me talk to this guy, see what it is, see if they could get me onto the show that we could, clear up these rumors. It's what I find very interesting, and I don't know what time. I know I've been on your little show, excuse me, your show. I call it a little, no disrespect, right? It's getting big, hopefully, God willing, right? You know, the information that's coming out on Ahrayah, right, and how they truly feel about this man. It's, he's our teacher. We love him. They're being hospitable and putting their hands out, but still stabbing him in the back on his deathbed. He's not even dead. And we're stabbing him in the back. These guys are saying, oh, well, he's an angel now, or he's repenting now that he's dead. I ain't agree with him when he was alive. These guys are delusional.
Sounds like you're listening to some GMS videos by some of that. Yeah.
I tell you how many videos I've seen so far. I've seen 3 videos. I have dash watched it because I'm like, okay, it's time to call certain people, right?
Yeah.
And when I reached out to one group, they reached back. All the other groups didn't reach back. I called this one group with the man from Castle Hill, General Yahanna. I know that because I used to live in Castle Hill. He grew up in a horrible neighborhood where they started sex, money, and murder. There's a guy who I bumped into on 125th who said that he used to live in Castle Hill too, and he was following, I think, Egyptology or something like that. And he said he did a video. I said, I'll check it out. Never got to it, but he knows about how that area came up. And General Yahanna.
Just so everyone knows, you're talking about in the Bronx, right? Castle Hill.
This is in the Bronx, Castle Hill,
Okay.
New York, New York. 10475 is the zip code. If you had a number at 718, you was a Bronx nigga. All right, that's all it was. But yeah, no, this is where he's from. I know exactly what building he grew up in.
Is Ahrayah from the Bronx, or where's he from? Harlem?
Ahrayah is, I would say, from all over the place. He's a Bronx native. Where he's at now, I won't put his privacy out there.
Yeah.
He's living okay. He's living good.
He's out in what's a fancy? Is it Catskills? What's that fancy? No, Hamptons. I forgot that.
Maybe it might be one of the only places that he has. He's around. He has a few things, toys. He lives quietly and humbly.
I guess Jermaine Grant broke him off a little proper. He said, "Hey, you say I'm the comforter. I got something for you."
Oh, you think that? Okay, so let me dispel that too. Some people think that Jermaine ran Leo. No, that was his show, Leo's show. That was him.
What?
A lot of people think that Jermaine Grant was the man. It seemed like he was when he was there, but no, not at all. Well, it was of no coincidence that when he started to rise up new leaders in there and other leaders got removed. I don't know, Miguel, I think he was more recent than me. Whereas, I heard lastly, before, I decided to get, around and go to different types of places and groups, that they were rising up an actual 12 apostles, like,
yes.
They were Jesus or some shit, right?
Yeah.
The guys that they rose up, they were called apostles. Mm-hmm. Ahrayah and his best friend, Shaw, was known as holy apostles because they ran the show. They always ran the show. It's always been that way. Picture a student of Ahrayah's telling Ahrayah what to do. No, Ahrayah ran that show.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but everyone that's aware of this situation, everyone thinks that Jermaine Grant somehow took over and Ahrayah had to be submissive to him. And I do have insider information that at private councils, Jermaine Grant browbeat Shar. You know what I'm saying? That
he probably definitely did. I'll tell you this much. Shaw is a guy that people have pushed around in the council. When they originally had the 7, I wouldn't say he was the weakest of them all, but he was the weakest of them all. He originally was the reader. He wasn't a teacher. Originally, when they established the 7 heads,
he's like Master Killer in Wu-Tang, where he wasn't even really a rapper, and they just put him in.
My favorite.
He was more like
no, but you know what happened with Master Killer? He wasn't even like
Count Dooku to Emperor Palpatine.
I got you. But Master Killer wasn't even a rapper, and they just put him on because he was like their boy, and then he turned into
he was for show. for sure. I mean,
It should
you have a
still
lot of
approved.
guys that was doing like cannabis when he was coming up. There was guys that was just better than him, right? The rapper, you guys familiar with cannabis?
Of
Oh yeah,
course, everyone know
of course.
cannabis.
Yeah,
The
but
LL
when he
Beef.
was out, he was a good spitter. But years ago, there was a lot more people that were just better than him. If Wu
Into
Tang
the
got onto the
capital
stage,
is
it was take a seat,
999.
take a seat. You could dance for us, but take a seat. He was on the stage. He was a wingman. But yeah, no, yeah, Ahrayah was not that. Yeah, he was that guy.
Hey,
And I'm not
let me
trying to
tell you
boast
something.
him up because he's a family member of mine. No, he was definitely he called some shots back there. As long as it didn't end up on his table, he didn't worry about it. So Tazadakia was in
You make
charge
him
of
sound like a
everything.
mob
Money.
boss, like he's the don of a family.
Well, when people first got in there, a lot of people said the same thing. He seemed like he was like Frank Lucas.
Wow.
Frankly.
People thought he was like Frank Lucas. He ran stuff. When he walked around, he was that man. He was wearing things that other people wasn't wearing. It was him that established this rule some years ago. Whereas if you look better than me, then you have to redact what you're wearing. So there were some guys that used to go in an
What?
organization that wore garments that people would mistake as apostle based garments or excuse me, high priest garments. At the time, it was high priest, right? So he was the one that said, "Yeah, no, you can't be doing that.
What's that?
You
What's
coming
that
in
called? The REI agreeing with envy rule? I don't know.
some bullshit."
Well,
I'm
I mean,
cussing up a storm on your show,
in
man.
a
Is it
time
a
I saw
formidable?
him, he had cowboy hats. But I think Miguel's mic's a little quieter. But Miguel's trying to ask something. I'm sorry, Miguel. Go ahead, brother.
I'm sorry about that, Miguel.
Oh no, that's fine because you have brought up cannabis, and I was just gonna spit a line where he says, "Let me tell you something. You might have more cash than me, but you don't have the skill set." Let me not finish that.
Oh yeah, I know what you're gonna say next, bro. Thanks,
But
thanks, thanks for keeping it PG. But anyways, well, I don't know, man. If you send me an email, I'll have your contact information because as of now, I don't have any way to get a hold of you.
yeah,
Oh yeah, Ben Mack, IT@gmail.com.
The Mega T. All right. Well,
It's
yeah.
pretty simple. I mean, you could reference back in the video.
If you have stuff you think that you feel could help the historical record be more accurate, I'm not talking about stuff that is problematic for the family, but it was just stuff related to kind of I would appreciate, I'll put it out there. I get the record because my thing is truth, not just an agenda, so we want to know what really happened and what really didn't happen, whichever way it falls.
right.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah, by all means. If I bump into anything, I'll make sure that hopefully, if it's preserved properly, if it's kept properly, I'll send it your way.
Well,
Again, by no wise am I going to try to convert some old VHS to a DVD. If
just
I
send me
send you something,
just send me the VHS, bro. I'm good. I got you.
you have a VHS. Okay, all right, you got a VHS player.
Well, no,
That's
I'll get it
something
converted. I'll
obsolete
get it.
nowadays, man.
No, I know how to get it digitized. So
Okay,
I
that's
would
the
do.
thing. I
You
would
know
have to
what?
ask because some people they hold on to things, and some people are not technologically
I got you, bro.
advanced,
You know
and
what
they're
else?
pretty fearful of certain information that goes out. If it's a VHS tape, they don't want something to happen to it except for it being played. So
Yeah.
that'll probably be the problem.
You know what else? This stuff is like documents. Like, is there an old copy of the 12 tribes chart, for example, like maybe a handwritten one that Ahrayah did? Things like that would be very important, not to the whole world, but to people that care about this stuff like me. It'd be important, certain little things like that. You know what I mean? Or even
He probably does. He probably does. But you mentioned
what's
Yeshaya earlier. He has a archive of information. Before he had left, there was an archive of information that he was sitting on that was given to him by other individuals that were part of the group. I'm pretty sure if there's one person that probably has that information, it's probably that old kook. He probably has most of the information because
you just
information normally gets passed down.
Shar?
A Yeshaya.
Oh, Yeshaya.
Yeshaya, excuse me.
You're saying
If
Yeshaya has
that's
a lot
weird
of stuff.
saying Yeshaya, that's another thing I question. Hopefully, when I ask some more questions, I'm just now asking questions. I was one of those guys that just went along for the ride, but that whole language of Lashwan Quadash, it seems like so much bullshit.
I mean, I'm very fluent in Harlem Hebrew.
Hey, break him off some Lashawan Quadash, San Miguel.
Abanal Basham Yahara Brakathum.
Rock a thumb, right?
Thawada. Hey, Miguel. Thawada.
The water, right? A shabium. Everyone sit, please. A shabium.
Salakia.
I've been keeping up on the Hebrew as well. I don't want to get off topic, but yeah, the Hebrew is. I think that would alone probably dispel any myths. Like aside from the obvious, when dealing with Black Hebrew Israelite groups, if you want to dispel the myths, just use the Hebrew. Just use the Hebrew. Just use the Greek, the Coney Greek. Just use what you can find immediately. Of course, we can't find ancient Hebrew anywhere, but using more modern languages to justify translations. Um, it really does. It makes some of these guys stumble. It really does.
Oh
I've
yeah, I
fucked
mean
with
you
them a
can
lot.
see it on the signage. Check this out. Up at the old One West School, when you watch the old video behind Ahrayah, there's a couple posters or whatever. One of them is the Lord's Prayer in Lashawan Kodash. There are massive grammatical errors in the prayer that is behind his head
Right.
every time he's
I've
speaking.
seen.
And it's whoever did it, and the fact that he's sitting there teaching with it shows that no one at the school knew Hebrew, because they would
No,
never have
they
that
didn't.
Lashawan Kodash prayer
No,
with
just
those.
basic
With
pure Hebrew.
it's
They don't know it.
yeah,
They don't know it.
these are rudimentary errors that they're just co-signing without
When I
knowing
got there,
really.
some it was while ago. I walked by into Harlem and I seen them out there. They were preaching near the church. What type of what I don't know who logically created their tactics, but the church right around the corner from the church, it shows that it shows some things. I was messing with one of them. Had a conversation about certain words that they use in Hebrew. And someone said, here, oh, God is one Lord, right? And I was like, okay, I have a hard time understanding things. Make me
Oh,
understand, because I just spoke to some Jewish dudes. They said that, to say God in Hebrew, right? Just fucking with them, right? It carries the intensity of plurality, right? Elohim, he, right? So I say, is there any way that you could justify or explain how this is referring to one, right? You also have terms,
Oh, you're getting into
historical
Elohim, it sounds like.
Elohim, El Elyon, and all of that, right? I just want to know what
would
they
be
knew,
a cod, right? A
and
cod
they
would be one.
couldn't. It was horrible. Yes,
Well, it has to
Miguel.
do with, I think a lot of it has to do with what verbs are used with the
That
Elohim
as well too. Yeah,
show if it's
but
singular or plural. But
even in Lashban Kodash, they use Yam. They attach that, which is their identification of the intensity of pluralities, as equal as him, im, him, which they use yam. It makes any word intensify plurally. Um,
Right.
yeah, well,
yeah,
that's another
they just
mistake in relationship to that,
yup,
because
yes,
in the sign behind his head in a picture I showed earlier that was from Getty Images that I was saying no one had publicly really seen before. Obviously, it was on Getty, so they had it, but I'd never seen it about in the sphere or whatever. This says "Sons of Yahushai," and then the Paleo Hebrew has that error in it in relationship to plurals, in relationship to sons, showing they don't know what they're doing. But check this out. That's important stuff, like this thing of who created the 12 tribes chart, who created the Lashawan Kodash, because you have some people saying that Edward Meredith Bibbins created the Lashawan Kodash when a angel in a gray suit visited him in his kitchen. But
that is correct. I could unequivocally confirm that story. Yes, that was the story. They got that information from him. It's the same with Ahrayah. Ahrayah fell asleep, had a dream, woke up, and had the 12 tribes chart.
he fell asleep and had a dream. Was it an angel in the dream?
That I don't know. He would say that it probably was, or he would say it was God that gave it to him. But it's
There's
confirmed that it was a
one
dream.
there's one version of the story that involves an angel with a perfectly round afro.
I'm pretty sure that was probably a story that was pushed. But the story was is that he had a dream. He tried to find correlations between his identity and his religion, and he tried to pair those things up. But as a finished result, the 12 tribes chart came out like a 12-year-old wrote it. It seemed like a 12-year-old wrote it. I'm not going to say that it's not fully inaccurate. In no wise do I believe that the historic ancient Israelites do have a relationship from a DNA perspective to that of modern day Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. I won't dispute that. As in history, we do find occurrences where language, faith, is involved in some of these historical, just more modern, recent civilizations. You have
Right,
Native
but if you start talking
Americans.
about genetics, you have a massive problem with the 12 tribes
Yeah,
chart,
that's a big problem. Yeah.
because you've got different haplogroups all smashed together, and it shows they don't have the same paternal lineage. And it's just like, how are you saying these
Yeah,
folks are?
lineage. from a DNA perspective, we start to see things get cut off after like the fifth generation. After the fifth, literally. After it doesn't have to be that much. Like you may carry maybe what 5% of the DNA of a relative from 5 generations down. If I don't know if that's correct, I don't take my statistics for it. But yeah, no, shit gets split real quick, and it makes it real difficult for me to understand how it works genetically. So I'm
Right.
not too keen on the genetics part.
So did you ever talk to Ahrayah about the 12 tribes chart or divisions or dreams or that kind of thing or prophecies, or was that something you never really talked about?
I personally have never asked him about that. But he has siblings. Again, I'm the generation behind him. His generation of siblings never really stood the test of time with him inside of the organizations that he was teaching in. He started his own thing. We have some family members that are part of other groups. His own family members are a part of other groups that are popular, like IUIC. He has actively at least 5 family members in there right now.
Well, wait a
Yeah.
minute. If that's true, it seems like they would have confirmed with the family members before they announced his death.
That was the thing. When I got off the phone with the deacon, I told him he has a whole full-blown sister inside of your organization. This is an older lady, and she's a grandmother of many. She
You
has a
think
lot of kids.
maybe they don't know?
I'm pretty sure they don't know. She doesn't live in New York. She lives in Florida, and I didn't even know they have an organization in Florida, right?
Oh,
It's
IUIC, bro. IUIC has something in Miami, Orlando,
that's
Tampa,
weird because
Tallahassee. IUIC
when I
is
tried
all
to call
over
them, I
Florida,
seen that
bro.
they had
Even
stuff in other
like
countries
Tallahassee.
supposedly.
Huh? What do you say?
When I tried to call him, they showed that he had stuff in that IUIC had places in other countries, and
They
I don't know
do.
if that's true.
They
That's
do.
true.
The
Oh, they're that
IUIC
big? Well, excuse me.
IUIC is by far the biggest One West organization.
Damn, that's crazy.
IUIC is number one when it comes to One West Hebrew Israelism. They're not number one out of any Hebrew Israelite organization that exists in the world, but when it comes to One Westism, they're large, and GOCC's second from all the stats that we know, and IUIC is definitely growing, and GOCC has a huge presence overseas, although they don't do very well in controlling their overseas groups. A lot of them end up turning against them, but IUIC has not made a lot of noise in regards to what the international camps are doing, but their international camps do exist, so they are overseas. This thing it's way beyond anything Ahrayah or Edward Meredith Bibbins could have, I think, ever imagined.
Or Yahweh ben Yahweh. There was a few groups that they got some numbers.
So he's
Yahweh
in
ben
Florida.
Yahweh had some numbers.
So Yahweh ben Yahweh ran the 80s in Miami, but nobody, or ran Miami in the 80s in a manner of speaking, but nobody is clear on the connection with Yahweh ben Yahweh, Hulan Mitchell, and One Westism. We don't know the
Okay, yeah,
connections.
so I can confirm that Yahweh ben Yahweh was a student of the Commandment Keepers. He wasn't. He was there. He was at the Commandment Keepers in Harlem. He took what he had and he went down there to Florida.
Well,
Yeah, I can confirm that.
he altered it though, because he put in some wild stuff in the teaching.
He definitely did. I think he started calling himself Jesus after a while.
Yeah,
Yahweh ben Yahweh. He was the Messiah or some shit, right?
You're saying
Hulan
Mitchell was
I'm
a
surprised.
member?
Wow, you know a lot about this. How much are you studying?
Well, I've even done some postgraduate work on it. So since 2015.
Postgraduate, we're talking doctorate?
Yeah, I didn't get to finish it, but I've done some postgraduate work on this for
Are you doing your doctoral dissertation? What is your background? I'm sorry, as far as academic wise.
I have a master's
Sorry,
degree.
I don't want to
I
sound
have
like
a
an
master's degree in Bible theology, basically from an ATS accredited school, and then I've done some postgrad
not
work. One that's just from one that was just a class, a one-off, and another one where I did my 3 years residency, but I wasn't able to complete my project phase. One day I hope to go back, but at Talbot, which is in La Mirada, California. And when I was starting my project phase, the project was on Hebrew Israelism. And so in 2015 is when I started really diving into the more like kind of academic level dealing with it. But then, when you get on the internet, everything's not as academic-y. So, I end up doing stuff like skits and parodies as well. So I live in a weird world because I'm trying to...
You've become a social media guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect it to social media, but I don't want to totally lose my dignity in the process. But it's a tough game, man. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of my...
As far as academically, you're still pursuing your doctoral
Currently,
degree.
right now, no, I'm not currently
No.
enrolled in the
Oh, I
program.
thought that this is why you were. So this is just something that you're doing as a
Well,
profession.
so I was already, so as a younger man, I was already into what Christians call apologetics. Apologetics is the idea that we give a rational defense, explanation, clarification, vindication for what we believe. And so apologists do defensive apologetics. Here's why we believe in the resurrection of Jesus, for example. And they also do offensive apologetics, polemics. Here's why this group or this belief is wrong. For example,
Right. I
reincarnation.
understand.
So there's, those different things. I was always into that pretty young because I had my own questions. And also I ran into so many things from where I was from, just kind of the way I grew up. And I was originally doing it on the streets. And then when the internet came around, I started blogging and radio stuff and kind of just found myself here years later. And so I had already done different apologetics prior to Hebrew Israelism. But when Hebrew Israelism came across my radar, I saw that really no one was covering it. So I said, let me do this because someone needs to do some apologetic related content to this stuff. And I have not left since
Seems
then.
a lot like journalism. I haven't really watched your show, but it seems like it leans more to journalism than, even though journalism is dead, it seems like it leans more towards that.
So to an extent, there's elements of that. But there's also, craziness. Like earlier today, I talked to a man who says he was King David. You know what I mean? So
Sounds like Harvey.
well, that's what's
He's dead though.
interesting. That's what's interesting is the one Westers were saying, "Oh, this guy's crazy," and I said, "Wait a minute, why do you believe King Mashah's King David, but this guy can't be?"
When you believe the same thing,
Yeah, so
this is pretty crazy.
those types of things. But it is a ideological threat. It's bad for society because it breeds division and it's destructive to families, but it's also a problem for the Christian church because it's something that draws people away. And then when it draws them away, I think stunts their growth in every manner of speaking. So I think it basically produces a bunch of negative results from the belief system. That's my view, and that's why I care. But I care about the truth. So my interests, I'm not trying to. I want to win, but with facts, not with slander. You see what I'm saying? So research matters. The
Yeah, I hear
research
you.
matters. So
I hear
that's my part of whatever role. And
continue doing what you're doing. I love it.
appreciate that, man. Well, let's talk again, and I'd love to see anything you have and anything else you could give me because this will be breaking news. Because this will be a big
By all
deal.
means, yeah, I have no problem. Hopefully, whatever I send you helps you in your endeavors. And you have a good one. Thank you.
Hey, I've got one more. I'm so sorry. One last quick question.
Yeah, sure, I'm still
And
here.
it's from a listener. Do you think Ahrayah really believes it? Sincere?
Is that a question for me, or
Yeah.
do I believe that Ahrayah actually believes it? Yeah, I truly do. The way that he is built and operated, I believe that he believes in his own craft. We have a lot of people that suffer from a well-known thing called cognitive dissonance,
Right.
right? And for those of you who don't know what cognitive dissonance is, just to give you a good example of what it is. So you have individuals out there that you may tell the truth to, and they may be, uh, optimistic to that specific truth. Something in the back of their mind creates a disbelief to that which is factual. It's like saying that the sky is blue and you show someone that the sky is blue and in their mind they're still saying no. Is that cold shoulder is a constant. Ahrayah has something similar to that. Not saying that he has a disbelief for certain things. He believes a lot. He believes a lot. And when there are individuals that do, create information that is false, incorrect, he, like many other individuals, have the tendency to put that on display. I don't know if it might be a game for him or he truly does believe, but being around him, he believes these things. He definitely does. Now, I'll give you something from my perspective. Any person that creates the construct of a lie, I feel like there is something psychologically wrong with them, right? But we also have to keep in mind, and I keep this in mind anytime someone spews a lie, that sometimes people believe their own lies. I'm pretty sure you heard of that before.
Mhm.
If a person lies enough,
Self-deception.
it becomes factual, right? It becomes factual. And even if that person was the constructor of that lie, if he orchestrated the lie, then yeah, I'm pretty sure if it lingers around long enough, he'll believe it. So yeah, I think he truly does believe, but that has something to do with that which is psychological and nothing more.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate talking to you, Ben. Let's talk again. Have a great night and get some rest.
Oh, you have a good one. I've been up all night. I'm gonna go break out a cigar and call it a day. You have a good one.
All right, man. Thanks. Well, y'all, you heard it here first. We'll find out. First Love Production is saying IUIC reported live about 2 hours ago that Elder Ahrayah has not passed. This is crazy. For real? For real? Do you have a link for that? So we're getting, because I know First Love Productions. I've seen your stuff, so I know that you're in the mix on this. Do you have a link or maybe a video title for this? This is crazy. Well, we'll find out what's going on soon here. Either way, this has been very enlightening, very insightful, and very fascinating. Just wow, 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 wow. We'll see. We'll find out soon enough. But let me know what you got there, First Love Productions. It says it's live now. How do I find it though? Why are they live at 2 a.m.? No, I know you said that, Ben. I know. Let me see. Oh, you're right. There's almost 1,000 people watching. This is crazy. What?